We were a team, yet our motivations danced in delicate balance. We should unite for this venture. That way, we won't end up ice cubes in a drink 2 weeks from now. Sounds fun. Give me the plan, Jonah chirped, rallying the energy in the room. I leaned back, glancing at each of their eager faces. Aisha's passion, Jonah's curiosity, Julian's intensity. The atmosphere thickened with a shared resolve. Research output will be everything. X-rays, ice cores, satellite images. I'll lead the analysis. If we can combine resources, the ice won't be our only discovery. We can outwit any saboteurs. Saboteurs, huh? Julian's eyes sparkled at the duel of intellects we were about to unfold. I'm always for uncovering secrets. Count me in, Zara. Just try to keep up. But only if you promise to keep your nefarious plans to a minimum, I quipped, raising my mug, the steam curling up toward the high ceiling. Where's the fun in that? He shot back. The banter dissolved into enthusiastic planning, our voices becoming threads weaving a tapestry of goals, lets, and even laughter that echoed against the icy walls. Each detail sharpened our camaraderie, nudging aside the ice-cold fear of failure. But amid our shared joys, Julian's gaze lingered on me during the laughter, a moment of unexpected vulnerability shining through. I caught him in the sheer intensity of his stare, part admiration, part hesitation, and wholly intense in its implications. My heart raced involuntarily at the depth of his feelings I sensed but had not yet fully unveiled. "Tell me, Zara, what drives you?" he asked softly when the wild laughter subsided. The room suddenly still, hovered on his words. "What forces your ambition?" I swallowed hard, my pulse throbbing. "I aspire to be someone the world remembers," I confessed, the truth slipping from my lips with weight. "I want to reshape how we connect with our past, make a mark." "You already have," he said, his gaze never wavering. "Your brilliance shines brighter than any iceberg." "Enough of these cheesy compliments, back to the plans," Aisha interjects playfully, disrupting the electric charge that had thickened the air. "Before you two start a feathery experience of flattery." "The great expedition awaits," Jonah added dramatically, feigning a swoon. Suddenly, a knock echoed against the door, breaking a ripple of momentum that had been building. The captain entered with a look that silenced the room. "We've picked up something on the radar. An unexpected storm. Prepare for immediate action." Excitement took over. We sprang into action, leaving behind our lighthearted banter. The mood shifted, and adrenaline surged through our veins. The howling winds outside transformed into a cacophony, ice cracking under the threat of nature's fury. "We're not backing down." Julian's voice rang confidently through the din, a steadfast anchor in turbulent waters. Outside, a storm unleashed its thrash, thrumming against the steel body of the ship, a reminder of our vulnerability. Determination charged through the atmosphere. We were allies now, bound by daring adventure and the desire to conquer nature's ferocity. Hours later, the storm had dulled to a droning hum, and I found myself alone with Julian, the ship's quiet solitude wrapping around us like a warm blanket. The shifting world outside seemed a faint whisper compared to the pounding in my heart. Our companions had retreated to their cabins, the camaraderie of our earlier plans cloaked by the darker tones of uncertainty. "Zara," Julian said, breaking the stillness. He stepped closer, the space between us pulsating with an electrified tension. "Can we focus on what really matters amidst all this chaos?" His eyes held a fire that mirrored the desire in my own heart, a connection that transcended ambition and purpose. "What's that?" I asked, emboldened. "Us." The word hung in the air, vivid and bold. Before I could respond, he enveloped me in his warmth, crashing our lips together, an eruption of unquenched desire. It was as though the storm outside found its echo in the tempest between us. Desire surged, wild and untamed, melting away doubts as if the ice itself was retreating. I surrendered wholly to the moment. The taste of him was a mix of warmth and adrenaline, igniting every fiber of my being. The kiss deepened, and the world outside dimmed, our breaths mingling in the space we occupied. Every touch inflamed my senses, and I became aware of nothing but him. He pulled me closer, his hands exploring the contours of my back and the nape of my neck, igniting pathways of passion I had not known existed. As our bodies intertwined, we lost ourselves in the storm of our desires. Nothing else mattered. His lips traveled urgently down my jaw to my neck, and a gasp escaped me, a yelp of pure exhilaration mixed with raw yearning. Just as things escalated, a sudden crash jolted through the ship, a reminder that we were not entirely alone. "What now?" Jonah's voice boomed from the hallway, breaking the spell. "Not a thing," I shouted back, breathless and reluctant to part with the warmth of Julian's embrace. "Right." He stepped back, his smirk laced with mischief. "Maybe some things are too important to let external storms disrupt." I laughed quietly, heart racing as I adjusted my dress. "You're impossible, but you like it." At that moment, Julian's gaze was unwavering, a magnet to the perpetual whirl of passion near the surface. Perhaps uneasiness lingered in the air like a storm cloud, but despite every external force threatening to tear us apart, I felt a new resolve settle in. Amidst the chaos, our union had forged stronger than the jagged ice, an unbreakable bond. With a determined gaze, I leaned closer to him again, our hearts thumping a rhythm of hope and desire. "Together, we'll emerge stronger." "Together," he echoed softly, our breath mingling, sealing the promise between us. As the storm outside wailed, I knew that in every tempest, both personal and physical, we had allies in each other, and within our new-knit family of explorers. There was much to navigate, but together, nothing truly felt insurmountable. Chapter 21, Unexpected Rivalry. "Are you sure you're not just trying to impress me?" Julian's voice floated over the soft clinking of glasses and the muted hum of laughter from the nearby tables in the ship's observation lounge. He stood with a cocktail in hand, a devilish smile playing at the corners of his mouth, the polar blue of the icebergs outside framing his silhouette like a painting. I folded my arms this time, deflecting the warmth of his gaze, my heart revving into a reluctant sprint despite myself. The lounge was wrapped in a cozy dim light, and the scent of burnt cinnamon lingered from the spiced rum concoction mixed just before. "You mean, like your secret admirer?" I countered, feeling the fidgeting tension inflating between us, a balloon on the verge of popping. "Oh, is that what we're calling it now?" he asked, raising an eyebrow as he tilted his head toward the entrance, where a new figure, tall with a confidence that filled the room like perfume, stepped in. The murmur of conversation faded as recognition rippled through the crowd. "Cassandra Orpheus," I whispered, the name slipping from my lips like an omen. She was a rising star in anthropological circles, fierce, ambitious, and utterly captivating. Her presence shimmered with an allure that made even the most solid of scholars falter. "Looks like you've got some competition," Julian said lightly, though his eyes darkened with an intensity I hadn't seen before. "Competition?" I scoffed, trying to shake off the quickly growing discomfort swirling in my stomach. "She's always been your type, Julian. Or do you only pursue serious rivals? What's that supposed to mean?" He frowned, the hint of a challenge in his voice. "I mean she fits your idea of perfection, smart, beautiful, and never afraid to play dirty when she needs to." "Aren't you being just a little dramatic?" he retorted, leaning closer, his breath ghosting against my skin. "You know me better than that." "Do I?" I replied, a sharp edge creeping into my tone. "Because right now, I can't tell if you're more interested in her or in this little game of seduction you seem to be so good at playing." He let out a frustrated chuckle, stepping back slightly, a retreat from my emotional onslaught. "You think I'm playing games with you?" Then, just as Julian's words hung suspended in the air, Cassandra sashayed over, her smile radiant, emanating a sort of magnetic pull. She approached us like a star, poised to claim her throne. "Julian, what a surprise to see you here." Her voice was honeyed, smooth, effortlessly charming. "And Zara Dunbar, The infamous anthropologist. I've heard so much about you. Still chasing after relics in exotic locations, I presume? Something like that, I replied coolly, catching the slight flicker of annoyance in Julian's eyes. He tucked his hands into his pockets, visibly on edge. Well, I'm ready for a little adventure myself. You know, Julian and I go way back. Hopefully he'll show me some of this icy paradise. Her laughter danced lightly, airy and infectious, yet beneath it lay a sharpness, a predator's glint. Cassandra, Julian stepped in, maintaining an air of charm that felt painfully forced. Why don't you join us for a drink? I barely contained a frown as he gestured for her to sit. The warmth of my cocktail had begun to dissipate, now feeling more like a cold reminder of their undeniable history. I'd love that, she declared, settling into the seat across from us, a predatory delight shimmering in her gaze. Zara, do tell me about your latest project. Anything thrilling in the pipeline? Actually, I'm working on deriving new methods of exploration in sub-zero climates, I replied, the words tumbling out before I could stop them, a blazing shield to defend against the encroaching tension. It's fascinating how resilient cultures adapt to harsh conditions. Cassandra raised an unimpressed brow, brushing a non-existent speck off her sleeve. Resilience, sure. But what's the real appeal for you? Is it the discovery, or the accolades that come with it? An unmistakable challenge tinged her voice, strumming the strings of my jealousy just the way she intended. I leaned in, the room dizzying with an energy I never anticipated. For me, it's about transcending boundaries. The accolades are merely a byproduct, a reflection of something greater, I shot back, locking eyes with her. Oh, I see, she cooed with feigned understanding as she leaned in closer to Julian, her hand now resting casually on his arm. So, more or less like how you're trying to push Julian to do better? He's so motivated, but I don't think he needs any more competition, right, Julian? Don't bring me into this, he replied, though the tension in his voice suggested he was far too invested, eyes flickering between the two of us. I'm just saying, it's easy to lose sight of your ambitions, she continued, pursing her lips like a cat about to pounce on its prey. Especially when love muddles the waters. Love doesn't muddle anything, it clarifies, I shot back, not willing to let her insinuations slide. The fire in my voice caught Julian off guard, bringing an impressed glint to his eye. Oh, so you believe love is a linear thing? Cassandra challenged, her smirk unwavering. How charmingly naive. Naive? What's charming about believing anything is simplistic? Perhaps we could swap ideas one day, and I'll gift you a view from the outside. I quipped back, my heart racing not just from Julian's nearness, but from the delicious tension that now crackled in the air. But before Cassandra could retort, Julian's hand tightened around his glass, his eyes narrowing. You two should stop, he admonished, his voice low and commanding, though I still detected a dangerous thrill in his tone. If you're trying to provoke a reaction from Zara, that's a gamble you might not want to take. Cassandra merely laughed, dismissing him with a wave of the hand. Oh, Julian, don't let your protective instincts cloud your vision. Zara can hold her own. She seems to thrive in storms. What do you know about storms? I asked, my voice slicing through the thickening air. Everything you have is handed to you on a silver platter. And everything Zara has she's probably worked thrice as hard for, yet still scrambles for approval. Some things never change. Cassandra fired back, her lips curling into a knowing smile. Tell me, how does that feel? The burn of her words stung, igniting something raw inside me. Julian shifted slightly, leaning towards me as if he could shield me from her calculated barbs. That's enough, Cassandra, he said with an edge. But she was relentless. So passionate, Julian. But it makes me curious. Are you preserving your heart for Zara? Because you might want to brace yourself. This icy wonderland holds more than just ancient relics, my dear. As her words hung in the air, the mix of laughter, clinking glasses, and meandering conversations swirled around us like a dense fog. I could feel the weight of Julian's gaze burning into me, the unspoken promise in his eyes as he prepared to deflect Cassandra's taunts. Instead of succumbing to the pressure, I stood up, my resolve hardening. You know what, Cassandra? This is amusing, but I'm not here to play worn-out games. If you want to discuss real competition, let's talk about something substantial. I turned and walked to the bar, giving myself a moment to breathe, the chill of the ice surrounding the ship echoing in my veins. Julian followed closely, his presence enveloping me like a comforting tide, brushing away the self-doubt emanating from Cassandra's words. Zara, he cautioned, concern laced into his voice, don't let her get under your skin. Why does it matter, Julian? I snapped, the emotions swirling inside me, amplifying my voice. You clearly enjoy the attention. Dropping my drink on the counter, I turned, facing him fully. What do you want from me? I'm tired of questioning what I mean to you while you bask in the glow of someone more suited to your type. I told you before, I'm not looking for suited, he insisted, stepping closer, his hand finding the warmth of my arm. You think this is about who impresses me more? This isn't a tournament. I want you, Zara, you. Cassandra sauntered toward us, her laughter barely muffled, an unwanted echo wrapping around my heart, fueling a flicker of anger. Is this another one of those romantic serenades, Julian? How sweet, so reassuring, she smirked, feigning exaggerated enthusiasm. No, I replied bitterly. This is about how draped elegance does not equate to substance. And you, Cassandra, are nothing more than winter pretenses. Without warning, the tension snapped, roaring back to life, a rush of realization igniting between me and Julian that we didn't care about her games any longer. I turned to face him, meeting his reassurance, and for the first time, I stepped into that tight space forming between us, waiting for his answer and yearning for resolution, passion surging forward unchained. As the tension between us surged, the world around us dimmed, fading into a distant murmur. There was a primal hunger thrumming at the edges of my consciousness, drawing me closer to Julian. All the while, an undeniable ferocity burned alive in our sanctuary. Suddenly, without a word, he pressed his lips to mine, his kiss igniting a wildfire that surged like fractured lightning across our skin. My body answered instinctively, claiming his warmth, the kiss unfurling like a summer bloom against the icy backdrop of our surroundings. In that moment, everything else melted away. The competition, Cassandra, her barbed remarks, we were incandescent, blazing into a universe only we could inhabit. His fingers tangled in my hair, and I sank deeper into his lead, the tension coiling tighter. We melted together amidst heated breaths and soft sighs, like two wanderers lost in an endless winter, desperately tethering ourselves to fire. There was no contest in this moment, just Julian and me. We broke apart, the world rushing back in, the forgotten tension dissipating into a heady silence. But before I could speak again, he whispered breathlessly, I won't let anyone take you away. Not her, not anyone. And as Cassandra leaned closer on the periphery of our embrace, I felt something deep within, a fierce determination to embrace this connection, to guard what we had unearthed amidst the icy chaos. My voice steady, I replied, then I suppose we'll just have to turn up the heat. Chapter 22, Healing Wounds. Is this how you plan to win me over? By creating chaos? I asked, watching the storm churn against the Antarctic horizon. The ship creaked beneath us, a prelude to the growing tumult of my heart. Julian leaned against the rail, ice wind tousling his dark curls, giving him an unruly yet intriguing air. His green eyes glinted like the icy waters below as they flicked toward me. I'd say it's more about keeping you on your toes, Zara. I rolled my eyes, though a smile threatened to break free. On my toes? That's a kind way to put it. More like you've turned this expedition into a dramatic farce. Farce? Julian pushed off the rail, taking a step closer, his voice low and smooth, tinged with playful challenge. I prefer to think of it as a meticulous strategy to distract you from the harsh reality of our icy prison, and perhaps your penchant for dismissing the fun side of life. The wind howled, a mournful sound, mirroring the gnawing tension between us. It was both exhilarating and overwhelming, like teetering on the precipice of a cliff. I had been so focused on my professional ambitions, on carving out my reputation as an anthropologist, that I had neglected the only person who could make the depths of this frigid landscape feel alive. "You think this is fun?" I finally replied, trying to keep my tone steady, as if shaking felt forbidden. "You're sabotaging my competitors and somehow expect me to want to kiss you again?" A brief silence hung between us, heavy with unspoken admissions. The last kiss had been electric and utterly confusing. "I'm protecting you," he said, his eyes narrowing slightly, shifting their warmth to something more intense. "You know that." "Protecting or controlling," I countered, folding my arms, feeling my muscles taut beneath the layers of thermal gear. I didn't want to admit how deeply caught I was in his spell, but he made it so hard. "Why do you always jump to extremes?" he replied, his frustration dancing with the corners of a smile. "Life isn't a black and white academic paper, Zara. It's messy, like this weather." He gestured awkwardly to the swirling blizzard outside, as if it were an apt metaphor. "Messy? Is that your excuse for treating me like one of your pawns?" I took a step back, letting the words create distance. He watched intently, gauging the effect of my retort. "That's not fair," he said, exhaling deeply. "You know I care. I fought for you, behind the scenes, ensuring that your work stays at the forefront. But at what cost?" I folded my arms tighter. "What if you're blinding me to my own achievements with your schemes?" "I don't want to blind you, Zara. I want to illuminate what's worth seeing." Julian stepped forward again, his intensity making my pulse quicken. "You're extraordinary. You need someone looking out for you in this cutthroat environment." Extraordinary or exceptional? Where's the line? I tossed back, half teasing, half serious. "Are we really talking about me, or is this about your own insecurities?" "Zara, why do you keep brushing aside what I want?" He hesitated, eyes flashing with something that held a mixture of admiration and frustration. "You are striving for something, the accolades. I can't stand by and watch someone squander their potential, especially you." "I am not squandering anything. This isn't freaking competition. I'm not just here to achieve success to please you." "Perhaps I don't want mere success for you," he countered, anger creeping into his tone. He leaned closer, the air between us crackling. "I want you to realize your true potential, to be happy." "You think I'm unhappy?" "I think you're afraid," he asserted, his voice rising with unrestrained passion. "Afraid of how extraordinary you really are, and how that would look alongside me. You think I'm chaos? I make you feel, and that terrifies you." The fight drained from me momentarily, the truth of his words hitting home. Was I afraid? Maybe. Was he right? Maybe. "I resented you for it," I finally admitted, taking a steadying breath. "For making me confront feelings I thought I had buried." He softened fractionally, the storm inside him easing with understanding. "Zara, I want you to know that every laugh shared, every kiss stolen, it's all a part of healing. We both have wounds. Yours are deeper. But they don't scare me." At his admission, heat flooded my cheeks. The distant sound of laughter broke through our tension, the other passengers mingling in the dining hall below, totally unaware of the storm brewing above deck. "Julian," I said, my voice quieter yet laden with intensity. "Would you just let me take care of you?" he interrupted, his voice earnest. "Let me help you heal." "Why do you care?" "Because I think you're worth it, Zara. Because I've given so much of my heart to you already, and I refuse to walk away without knowing you truly see me." The quiet desperation of his words spread warmth through me, thawing the icy barriers I had so carefully constructed. "You and your manipulation," I murmured, half smiling against my better judgment. The warmth in his eyes sent a spark flickering through my mind, throwing aside my doubts and fears. "That's one way to put it." He grinned, the tension melting, replaced by something far more vulnerable. "But if I have to charm, I'd prefer to do it with a bit more flair." "Flair?" I arched an eyebrow, feeling a mischievous banter dance at the edges of my heartache. Ah, now that's the Zara I know. So serious. He twirled playfully, drawing a laugh from me, even among the frigid air swirling around us. Okay, fine, I said, pretending to roll my eyes despite the smile breaking free. How about we wipe the slate clean, for the expedition's sake? He stepped closer. The space between our bodies was electric. You mean it? Because I don't recall you saying please. That's because I'm not a customer at some five-star hotel, Julian. His chuckle echoed through the deck, lightening the somber atmosphere. You are a priceless treasure. How could I forget? Stop it. You're laying it on thick. This isn't some romantic comedy. Yet his laughter continued to pull me in, and the way his dark eyes glinted as he studied me made it hard to resist. Romantic comedy? I could give you much more than that. How about a life-or-death scenario? Maybe throw in some intense chase scenes. He took a step towards me like an actor preparing for a dramatic moment. I couldn't help but laugh, my defenses crumbling under his charm. I thought this was supposed to be about healing, not Hollywood plot twists. Every romance needs a little drama, Zara. Emotionally resonant tales, slapstick moments. Trust me, I've studied every great romance known to humankind. He leaned in, as if to share a secret. I've come to the conclusion that a little chaos keeps things interesting. Wouldn't you agree? Interesting? My heart raced as I fought to maintain a semblance of control. Or exhausting? An exhausting interest can be the most thrilling of all, don't you think? And suddenly, with that infectious grin and devil-may-care charm, he closed the space between us, and the world outside melted away, replaced by a singular focus. Before I could think of a retort, he took my hand and led me to the side of the ship, the chilly metal railing contrasting with the heat cascading between us. Shall we see where this leads us? Together? With a final nod, I let the warmth engulf me, allowing my laughter to echo into the icy abyss, realizing perhaps I was ready to embrace more than just the pursuit of academic accolades. I was ready to confront my greatest fear, the vulnerability blooming between us. As he gazed deeply into my eyes, pure ignited passion lit the air. His hands drifted across my torso, sending jolts through my body. Zara, Julian, I whispered, caught between trepidation and longing. Then, madness. His lips crashed against mine, igniting a spark that spread through my limbs like the clashing icebergs outside. Each kiss held a promise, the hot meld of Argentine desire and passionate turbulence. I melted against him, tasted him like my very last act before diving into the abyss. The world shifted. With it, our union arose, needing nothing more than what this untamed wilderness could give us. Let's explore every corner, every secret, he murmured, his lips tracing my fiery response as the storm outside threatened to blow the doors of opportunity wide open. Chapter 23. Secrets from the Past. The ship creaked like a weary old man, adjusting to the relentless push of the Antarctic winds. Outside, the snow whipped violently against the glass of my cabin, a swirling tempest of white that felt both 1,000,000 miles away and unbearably close. I sat on the edge of my bed, the crisp, starched sheets cool against my fingertips, staring at the stark outline of the icebergs that danced around us, glowing, luminous, and cold, just like me. The glow of my laptop screen illuminated my face in the dim light, a bluish tint casting shadows beneath my eyes, reminders of sleepless nights spent both researching and battling my own tangled thoughts. My new discoveries about my family's history, combined with the unyielding pressure of my academic ambitions, twisted my insides like a knife, a weird blend of excitement and dread. "Hey, you coming to dinner?" Julian's voice broke through the lingering quiet, his deep timbre sending a pleasant shiver down my spine. He leaned against the doorframe, a striking figure within the chaos, tailored navy suit hugging his shoulders, hair tousled as if sculpted by the wind outside. Was it possible for someone so powerful to look so effortlessly magnetic? Yeah, Just finishing, I murmured, turning back to my screen, though my heart was dancing in my chest as if it too had made its escape from my chaotic mind. Seriously, Zara, you've been cooped up in here for hours, he said, crossing his arms. His gaze was piercing, the weight of it insisting that I couldn't hide behind tasks or screens forever. Is it the research or what you found about your parents? I hesitated. It was always the same between us, the layer of unspoken tension thickening as feelings flared hot and cold like the weather outside. It's both, actually, I admitted, rising from the bed. I didn't expect to uncover this much. My mother. Your mother? Julian's brows furrowed, and I watched him shift, intrigue sparking within his dark eyes. She was born in a small village in Jamaica. I found letters, I said, my voice hesitating. She wrote about her childhood, her dreams, the struggles before our lives became what they are. Julian took a step closer, his intensity crackling like electricity. And what are they now? What do you want to do with what you've learned? I want to honor her, to understand her truth. I want to trace back our roots and find out what it means to belong to that legacy, I admitted, leaning against the table, trying to rein in my emotions as they flared and swirled. It's about more than just my research. It's personal. He stepped even closer, fingers brushing the edge of my cheek, a soft touch that curled like smoke into the air. And what about us, Zara? Where do you place that truth? The room felt constricted, the walls closing in. You, of all people, should know that this isn't just a fling. I have goals, dreams. He drew back, but the hurt flared in his eyes. And I never wanted you to feel that you're just a part of my scheme. Scheme, is that what you call it? I interrupted, a sharp edge creeping into my voice. I can't be in a world where underhanded tactics can determine the fate of others. And yet here we are. He stepped back, golden light from the window catching the angles of his intense features, and my heart raced with a mix of anger and desire. Do you think all I want is to be swept away by your grand designs? I shot back, frustration bubbling up. I'm not a damsel waiting for her knight. Don't put this on me. Julian's eyes flickered, a blend of defiance and desire. I'm not trying to put anything on you, but don't pretend my brilliance isn't driving you mad. Mad? I spluttered, unable to restrain the laughter that burst out. A vulnerability inside a feast of tension. Is that what you think? You think you're so brilliant? Why not? His grin widened boyishly. I mean, I am a complete genius after all. We shared a brief chuckle, the tension dissipating like steam, and for a moment, fire crackled in the silence. He moved in, placing his hands on my shoulders, grounding our swirling emotions. Look, I know things have been complicated, but I can't help but think how perfect we could be if you just let me into your world. Perfect? Nothing's ever perfect. I turned my head away, but his fingers gently prodded my chin back toward him. Maybe we could try, he said softly, burying himself deeper in the depths of my hazel eyes. My heart thumped erratically, torn between wanting to flee and wanting nothing more than to lose myself. Julian's gaze softened into something warm, something hungry, and the air between us thickened with something indescribable. One gentle dip of gravity, and then his lips melded against mine. The kiss surged, wild yet controlled, an electric promise entwining our fates. All quarrel and longing blending until it overflowed, blooming with hunger. Should I bring dessert? Harper, my friend and fellow researcher, flung open the door to my cabin, interrupting us. She stood halfway through, her lips forming an O, before she caught on to the intimate scene. My cheeks flushed as Julian and I broke apart. His hands still rested imperatively on my hips, and I tried to wrestle the embarrassment that bubbled within me. Please, tell me you're not trying to play house in this icy wasteland. Harper arched an eyebrow, laughter escaping her lips. I didn't realize this ship had a love-boat inside. Save it for after dinner, Harper, I retorted, shoving my hair back, though I couldn't help the smile creeping onto my face. What? I'm just providing a service, lovebirds. Harper primly pointed a finger. Consider me your happily ever after self-appointed dealer. Dealer of what? Julian shot back, amusement lighting his face as he shifted back, arms folding across his chest. Your wild ambitions or passionate rendezvous. I can feel the heartbreak dancing in this icy air. Harper laughed, moving forward like a whirlwind. I didn't mean to interrupt, but I swear we're all invited to a witching hour dinner. What about your research? I asked, feigning disinterest. Oh, it can wait. I mean, until you two wrestle with your emotions. She winked, feigning exaggerated gestures as she leaned on the doorframe, clearly relishing the drama. Julian shot me a querying glance, tilting his head, curiosity woven into his expression. You think she's right? That we should give in? Forget the rules? I bit my lip, torn between laughter and the urgency of my research. Maybe just for the night. Harper threw her hands up in surrender. At this rate, I should take notes. The grand debate of ambition versus love is riveting. Julian laughed, his rich baritone rumbling through the atmosphere, and I felt a spark of joy in the chaos we created together. In that moment, I realized I was at war, with my heart and my ambitions, yet the stakes felt less ominous with him at my side. All right, he finally relented, stepping away. Let's all go together then. I nodded, sensing a glimmer of relief amidst my swirling emotions. The dinner table would be set, laughter echoing off the walls, and even if we weren't entirely perfect, I found comfort in that lack of clarity. See? That's the spirit. A match made in icy paradise, Harper quipped, moving to usher us both outside. The air turned sharp as we navigated the ship's passageways, the lights glowing softly above us. Amid the chaos of our bubbling tensions, deep below the surface of icy waters, love wove our paths together, complicated passions igniting beneath everything we desired. Dinner awaited, a dance of laughter, swirling stories, and the arduous yearning for truth that thrummed just beneath my skin. I glanced sideways at Julian, whose smile warmed me like the sun's first rays against the cold. And in that moment, I felt an inkling of what it meant to embrace both ambitions and love, perhaps even to dare bold steps deeper into the complex fabric of my desire. Bring it on, Harper, I murmured playfully. This ice won't thaw of its own accord. We stepped into the dining room, where whispers and laughter mingled with the scent of roasted meat and spiced vegetables. The flickering candles created a warm glow and set the stage for the swirling dance of feelings yet to unravel. And as I took a seat beside Julian, our fingers brushing for the briefest moment, I knew we were just scratching the surface of what awaited us in this frozen wilderness, both thrilling and terrifying. Nothing worth having ever comes easy, I whispered to myself, a mantra against the backdrop of our chaotic world. The banquet of the night loomed. I was ready to embrace each moment, submerged under love and ice alike, feelings boiling beneath the surface with an urgency I could no longer ignore. Chapter 24, Julian's Past Unveiled. The Antarctic winds howled like a chorus of lost souls over the deck of the Arctic Blossom, the luxury expedition ship now cloaked in shadows as the sun dipped below the jagged horizon. My fingertips tingled as I gripped the cold metal railing, my eyes tracing the indigo twilight creeping over the endless expanse of ice. I drew in a sharp breath, inhaling the crisp air filled with salt and chill, grounding myself in a world that felt increasingly surreal. Zara. Julian's voice sliced through the biting wind, rich and warm like a favorite song. I turned to find him approaching, his silhouette a striking blend of elegance and strength. The dim light revealed the contours of his face, a mix of gravity and mischief dancing in his expressive eyes. Somehow, even among the frigid chaos of Antarctica, he ignited a warmth within me that felt scandalously out of place. What do you think? I smiled despite the storm brewing inside my heart, urging me to draw closer. Should we brave the cold, or seek refuge inside the warmth of our thoughts? I arched an eyebrow, teasing him lightly. Let's not pretend, he replied, stepping right into my personal space, his body radiating heat that contrasted the winds. It's the warmth that draws us together, isn't it? What's that saying? He grinned, his dimples deepening. Cold hearts never reap the sweetest rewards? Or misery loves company, I shot back, loving the playful banter that danced between us like the flickering lights of nearby lanterns. I could feel the shadows of his past creeping into our present now, heavy with unspoken words. But just then, the thump of a door interrupted, and our friend Marisol bounded out, her laughter infectious. If you two lovebirds have finished plotting your escape to a hall of warmth, maybe you'd like to join the rest of us for a drink. She flicked her hair, her radiant smile outshining the glacial backdrop. Julian chuckled softly, but glanced at me, as if quietly inquiring whether I wished to stay outside or follow Marisol inside. The moment hung between us, laden with tension and possibilities. Let's, I said, unwilling to let the air between us morph back into confusion. Inside, the ship was a soft glow of polished wood and flickering candles, a cocoon against the harsh reality outside. We joined a few others in the ship's lounge, the communal laughter a chant of camaraderie. A few drinks in, the atmosphere lightened, and Marisol stood up, peering over at Julian and me. You two seem awfully cozy, she teased, grinning as she sipped her martini, the olives bobbing like witnesses to our every interaction. You should tell us about your secret plans. Or how Zara saved your life at that last lecture, Julian added playfully, feigning disbelief. More like a rescue mission, I interjected, and we both laughed, the tension dissipating momentarily. But as the evening wore on and the conversations danced, I felt Julian's gaze on me. When our eyes met, it was electric, a pulse of something deeper than laughter. Something raw. My heart raced. I felt a carnal urge to bridge the distance between thought and touch. Hey Zare, Marisol snagged my attention before I could probe deeper into Julian's thoughts. Who do you think is going to be the next big name in anthropology? Because I'm betting on you. Marisol, I laughed. Flattery won't help when my thesis is a mess. It's not a mess, Julian interjected, serious now, like the melody of our earlier banter had shifted into a profound sonata. Your work resonates. You see things in a way the rest of us can't. Easy for you to say. You've been riding my coattails since I arrived, I remarked, trying to keep my tone light even as uncertainty stirred within me. I was merely waiting for the right moment, he replied, enigmatic. Suddenly the door swung open again, and Aisha entered the room, exuding chaotic energy like a whirlwind. Did anyone order a delightful disaster? She declared, before spotting the drinks. Oh, good. Still plenty of time to drown my troubles in questionable decisions. Troubles? Marisol asked, tilting her head in concern. Aisha plopped down beside me, taking a swig of my untouched drink. Want to talk about Julian's dark, brooding past? I hear it's a real doozy. I can assure you, Julian said, an unmistakable edge of amusement in his tone. My past would make any nightmares look like a rom-com. Not the first time I've seen you with that haunted look, Aisha smirked. The room burst into laughter, but Julian remained still, the smile faltering slightly at the corners of his mouth. The air shifted, curiosity growing thicker among us, and it was as if the laughter had peeled back layers of history. Let's hear it, Julian, I encouraged, leaning forward, feeling the playful energy of the group wash over us. You might just be our next big source of entertainment. His expression tightened, and for a moment I thought he might refuse, retreating into his usual guarded demeanor. But then he let out a breath, heavy with purpose. You really want to know? Yes, we all chorused, drawn into the magnetic pull of his vulnerability. Well then, he began slowly, letting the words swirl like the drink in his glass. I grew up in a world far removed from this one. My father was a doctor, well respected, but also deeply flawed. His eyes locked onto mine, the shadows of his past drawing closer. He believed in legacies above all else. The pressure was suffocating. What did you do? Aisha asked, her initial flippancy evaporating at the gravity of his story. I chose medicine for a long time, tried to follow in his footsteps, but in doing so I lost a part of myself. And when I finally found the courage to break away, the words hung, coiling in the air, vibrating with the tension of shared secrets. I half wanted to reach out and touch him, to make him feel the embers of understanding seeping quietly from within me. What changed? He hesitated. I invested into something else entirely, something that came with a price. I went too far, took risks I shouldn't have, and it cost me. The chords of melancholy laced his voice. Cost you what? I prodded gently, having woven myself into the narrative curve of his revelation. It's complicated. There's a reason I've been waiting for you. He leveled his gaze at me, exposing a flicker of unguarded longing that pulled at the very threads of my existence. You're the one I've been looking for. But why? What could I possibly do that could change anything? Zara, he urged, the weight of his eyes bearing down on me. You have to understand. My family is tied to something greater than just legacy. Something dangerous. What? Said Marisol, leaning forward, intrigued. I've driven away competitors in this research to pave the way for you, not merely as a rival, but to find a cure. The room turned quiet, my heart racing as I wrestled with the implications. A cure for what? The rare genetic condition that threatens my family. His voice dipped low, the honesty unraveling the intense social game we had been playing all night. Shocked whispers bounced among us, and my head spun. It was both a confession and a revelation. Armor stripped bare. You could have told me all this earlier, I stammered, the storm inside me building with every heartbeat. I didn't want to risk scaring you away, he responded, devastatingly earnest. I wasn't sure if you could fathom the ties that bind me. Sounds like you've been binding yourself for too long, I said, anticipation echoing in the charged air between us. And honestly, I'm even more confused now. Then let me make it simple, he said, eyes glittering with intent. This isn't just about a cure, Zara. It's about saving everyone I love, and whether you see it or not, you are part of this legacy of mine. My pulse quickened at the depth of his revelation, and I could feel the intimacy of shared secrets blooming like a wildflower in the tundra. And what about me? What do I have to offer? I only have my research. You have passion, he interrupted, stepping closer, his proximity igniting flames within me. That's what makes you extraordinary. Your ambition, your fire. They're things I've come to admire. But what if I fail? I whispered, the certainty of my own insecurities rising. What if my dreams crumble under the weight of your past? Then we crumble together, he declared fiercely, determination radiating from him. You don't have to bear this weight alone. And in that moment, something raw pulsed between us, a yearning that surged like the brush of a tidal wave colliding with soft sand. Before logic could reach my mind, I leaned closer, captivated by the light swimming in his gaze, feeling the tightrope of distance separating our souls fade away. Zara, But his words were swallowed by the magnetic pull as I pressed against him, my lips finding his in a hungry rush, the taste of uncertainty and wildness melding together. The world melted away, and all that existed was the way he held me, the way our bodies seamlessly interlocked like pieces of a larger design. The room blurred, laughter and the teasing camaraderie fading into the background hush of desire. His hands found my waist, fingers outlining the arch of my body, pulling me tighter. The heat of our passion surged, and time twisted until we were cocooned in each other. Oh wow, you two are really getting into it. Aisha's voice cut through the haze of my thoughts, laughter spilling over her lips. Don't mind us, just trying to create an awkward situation. Julian's mouth left mine for just a moment, his breath hot against my skin as he laughed, clearly amused by Aisha's playful interruptions. It's not awkward if it feels this good, he replied with a teasing smirk, his fingers still tangling in my hair, sending shivers down my spine. Isn't that right, Zara? Tell them. Good Lord, it's good, I managed to say, laughter bubbling in my chest as I tried to navigate the chaos of emotions crashing over us. Now that's what I like to hear, Marisol chimed in, her approval slicing through the tension that had built all night, laughter spilling across the room like confetti. As the humor danced between us, I could feel Julian's warmth surrounding me, and within that chaotic atmosphere, I realized that behind every shadow lay the possibility of light, a dance of joy and passion entwined in the chilling embrace of North's expanse. Caught between laughter and longing, I surrendered to the moment, knowing that despite the wild winds and the swirling drama of our shared histories, we were writing our own tale among the frozen whispers of the night. In this beautiful chaos, love felt like the most joyful risk of all. A warm feeling swelled in my chest, and as Julian's lips found my own once more, it became clear. Together, we could conquer whatever tempests life threw our way. Chapter 25. Challenge Accepted. The ice cracked beneath the hull of the Endurance with a symphony of brittle pops, a sound so melancholic that it reached into my chest and twisted, echoing the turmoil that had lodged itself there over the past few days. I stood on the observation deck, gloved hands resting on the polished balustrade, watching the icy landscape stretch out like a blank canvas awaiting artistry. The Arctic sun hung low on the horizon, casting glimmers over the fractals of ice, reminding me that isolation can manifest both beauty and despair. Below me, in the ship's warmth, was Julian Black, magnetic, infuriating, intoxicating. He was a celebration of contradictions, an enigma wrapped in tailored clothes and concealed burdens. My heart raced at the thought of him, a wild stallion trapped behind my carefully constructed walls, my drive for professional recognition warring with this fragile, untrained longing that followed him like a shadow. "Elbows in, Zara. You're losing your center," Julian said from behind me, an amused lilt to his voice. A thrill of irritation shot through me, quickly smothered by the heat of embarrassment that crept up my neck as I tucked my elbows. "You're about to tumble overboard into a very cold reality." I whipped around, clutching the balustrade as if it were my lifeline. "And if I do, it's not like anyone would risk their life to save me," I snapped, the words harsher than I intended. I was frustrated, both with him and with myself. How could a man with secrets so deep, secrets dredged from the depths of his family's legacy, stir something in me that felt so incredibly reckless? His expression shifted to serious, a playful shadow retreating like the tide. "I would, Zara, I would." That unguarded moment ignited a fire in my chest, a twinkling challenge glinting in his dark eyes. "You really think so? You'd jump into icy waters just to save me?" "I know your ambition, Zara. You won't go down without a fight." "Maybe I'd swim to the nearest iceberg and start a life there," I retorted, crossing my arms defiantly. Jealousy flared in me, mixed with admiration for his tenacity, the way he saw through the clutter of my mind to the heart of me. The ambition, the desire, the fear. The entire soul he claimed to know as if I were an open book he thought he had read cover to cover, even as I scrambled to conceal my ink-stained pages. Julian smiled, his gaze playful yet piercing. "How about this, then? A challenge, a series of adventurous tests, a trail of mayhem, a dash of danger, and a heap of fun. Whoever loses has to..." "Has to what?" I urged, already suspecting where this was heading, the spark of no-nonsense competitiveness igniting my senses. "Be the other's lackey for a week. You know, fulfilling any and all whims." He raised an eyebrow, a devilish grin flitting across his lips. "I think you'd wear that red dress for me quite beautifully." "Oh, please, you're not getting the best of me this time," I shot back, the thrill of contention running through my veins. "Challenge accepted." He tilted his head, a glint of admiration whirling into the depths of his dark gaze. "You should know, Zara, it won't be easy." His smirk made me think about the easy banter that often submerged beneath deeper waters. "I'm a scholar, Julian. I thrive in adversity," I shot back, my laughter warming the cool air. Still, his words echoed in my ears. It won't be easy. The first task came hours later, a race through the polar ice fields. 4 of our fellow passengers, unfurling their flag of mischievous camaraderie, joined in the upheaval under Julian's exuberant charge. Leo, always eager for action, bounced in anticipation, his energy contagious. "You're going down, Zara. I'll place bets on Lady Black." Lady Black is no loser, I shot back, giving him a playful shove. We were all driven by a bubbling thrill, but I could see Julian's gaze searching mine, as if testing the waters. Ready, set, go. With that, we bolted into the frigid wild, laughter and shouts ricocheting off the icebergs, weaving through the myriad of towering icy behemoths. I had always relished the thrill of competition, the adrenaline rushing like a torrent through my veins, and I channeled all my energies into finishing first. But Julian often matched my stride, radiating a playful determination, his physique as much a weapon as my wits. Is that all you've got, Zara? He chuckled, playfully leaping onto an icy mound, his silhouette contrasting sharply against the crystalline backdrop. As we raced, rivalry simmering, I barely noticed the jagged ice ahead of us until I stumbled, catching myself on the edge of a deep fissure. The world tilted as I teetered, panic sparking in my chest. But Julian was there, firm hands wrapping around my waist, pulling me back against his chest with a force that pinned me deliciously to him. Careful, he murmured, breath warm against my ear. Is it because you wouldn't want to lose your lackey? I teased, half embarrassed. He glanced down, a flare of searching need mingling with the playful snark that we both wore like armor. I'd be willing to risk more than that. Adrenaline coursed through me, igniting something electric that made my skin prickle in anticipation. As we disentangled, the challenge raged on. We sprinted, tripping and laughing, blurring the boundaries of friendship and something unspoken, deeper. Yet just as the finish line came into view, Julian pulled ahead. I felt a pang, pure jealousy, coursing through me as he crossed with a victorious leap. Game over, he chuckled, brow glistening under the Antarctic sun, mischief dancing in his dark eyes. I'll be your lackey, I threw back, the words a haze of mixed emotions. The thrill of our banter cracked like electric current. For a week, if that's what it takes to earn your respect. Our friends cheered, each one lightheartedly admonishing me for not being competitive enough, reveling in the spirit of camaraderie. But Julian stepped closer, eyes fixated on me. That's not the only price, Zara. You know you'll have to pay for that privilege. Just what might that entail? I challenged, laughter circling like a tidal wave, masking my curl's uncertainty. It felt like fireworks tingling at my fingertips as he slowly closed the distance. You'll have to remind me of that dress, the one I've been dreaming about. His voice lowered, eyes sparkling like sunlight on ice. And the little bit of pleasure I offered you earlier? Caught in the intensity of his gaze, I took a breath, the air sweet with bracing cold and the unnameable excitement that danced between us. It felt dizzying, exhilarating, a temptation that dared me to abandon caution. Julian. But our laughter echoed with the urgency of our reality, dissolving in the sounds of riveted challenges and friendly banter. Was there something more volatile simmering beneath the surface? I had never before met someone who could pull me into the depths of my emotions and bask in the starkness of dreams fulfilled or extinguished. Well, you'd better watch it, Leo chimed in, grabbing a nearby snowball. Here comes the ball of fury. The surprise of a snowball hitting me in the back of my neck sent me crashing into laughter, and before I knew it, there were arms encircling me, laughter spilling wild in such a delicious way. We cocooned in joy and heat, even as the Antarctic air crackled around us. In the chaos of friendly war, I saw Julian rushing toward me, a devilish smile stretched wide, another snowball in hand. Ready to lose again, he shouted, a playful challenge dancing between us. Eluding his playful attack, I lunged forward, my feet slipping on the ice, body woven against his as I caught my balance. Our laughter rang out like a beacon, and suddenly we were no longer just chasing after scores, but discovering the thrill of pushing against barriers that felt like ethereal walls all around us. And as he captured me in an embrace, rivalry's intentions dissipating into a flurry of snowflakes, I was reminded that sometimes, amidst the coldest environments, two hearts could create a warmth that ignited the soul. Instinctively, I leaned in, closing the space even further, daring to fit myself entirely against him. The world blurring as I whispered, "What now, Julian? What else do I need to win?" "Glad you asked," he replied, his grin shifting into something far more intense, intimate. And as we stood in the stunning juxtaposition of heart-thumping rivalry and undeniable attraction, I wondered just how intoxicating this experiment of love could be, what it would take for me to truly let go. Let's find out. Chapter 26. Crossing Boundaries. The cold was relentless out here. The Antarctic winds, howling like ghosts seeking vengeance. I could feel its biting fingers crawling under my skin as I stood on the ship's deck, clutching the railing tighter than I had any right to. The ocean shimmered with icy shards, a brilliant blue-gray canvas that somehow reflected the chaos swirling in my chest. Each gust of wind carried the sharp scent of salt and frost, remnants of a world eternally encased in winter, mirroring the turmoil within me. The world stretched out, infinite and sterile, a landscape of desolation, and yet, amid this ice-bound isolation, I felt a flicker of warmth that defied the chill, a warmth so fierce it could thaw even the iciest of hearts. Julian. My thoughts jolted like a struck bell at the sound of his name, igniting sensations I had tried my best to keep dormant. Zara. His voice swirled around me with the warmth of a summer breeze, the timber smooth yet commanding, drawing my attention away from the relentless wind. I turned to find him emerging from the shadows of the ship's interior, that eternal mix of mystery and authority wrapped around him like a second skin. "Do you ever feel like you're losing your mind?" I shot back, half in jest, my heart racing with a cocktail of annoyance and unfamiliar excitement. The layers of my carefully constructed defenses felt thin out here. All it took was the sight of him, his broad shoulders, the close-cut curls framing his face, and I was a ship lost in a storm. "Daily," he said with a grin that set my pulse throbbing faster, an invitation woven into every curve of his lips. "But right now, I feel like I'm losing you to the icebergs." He took a step closer, his gaze simmering with mischief. "Very poetic," I replied, rolling my eyes, yet biting back a smile. The corners of my mouth betrayed me. He had a way of invoking lightness even in these bleak surroundings. "Maybe I should write you a thank you card for saving me from an existential crisis." "Make it a postcard," he replied, stepping even closer. "I can assure you, I have plenty of time to look out for you out here." I could feel the warmth radiating from him, and the psychological tension crackled like the electric air before a storm. "You think you can protect me from the ice?" "Not just the ice," he said, his voice dropping to an intimate whisper, melting the distance between us. "You should be more worried about what's lurking beneath it." I raised an eyebrow, the corner of my mouth twitching with a challenge. "Is that a metaphor for another one of your grand schemes?" "Maybe." He moved even closer, the scent of cedar and musk wrapping around me like a thick fog. "Or maybe it's just me daring you to plunge deeper, past the surface." The urge to laugh was overpowering. The intensity of our banter ignited something in me, a longing so fierce it startled. I took a tentative step back, a futile attempt at regaining some semblance of control. "You're not serious." "Not serious? Zara, do I look like I'm playing games?" He reached out, his fingers brushing my wrist, a feather-light touch that felt electrifying. "You know I only play with the stakes high." The world around us started to fade, the ship rocking gently beneath our feet, and I could see it in his eyes, a challenge and invitation wrapped in curiosity, both consuming and intoxicating. "Fine, I'll bite," I muttered, meeting his gaze head-on. "What's beneath the surface?" "Why don't we find out?" Julian invited softly as he stepped back. "Meet me in the lounge in 10 minutes. I guarantee you won't be disappointed." The moment felt like the calm just before the deluge, a pregnant pause that thrummed with electricity. I couldn't ignore the way the air shifted, weighted with unspoken promises. 10 minutes? I repeated, my voice shaky. Is that enough time to prepare for whatever you have in store? Preparation is overrated, he teased, his eyes sparkling. Be bold, Zara. With that, he turned and left, leaving me to wrestle with the weight of his challenge. The cold breeze nipped at my cheeks, reminding me that while the Antarctic may technically be silent, it was anything but still. As I made my way to the lounge, my heart hammered with anticipation. The low hum of laughter and clinking glasses poured out like warmth into the passageway, making each step feel lighter. I could hear the voices floating through the door, and I paused, catching snippets of laughter and playful banter. Inside, the lounge was vibrant, a sanctuary from the icy elements. Warm lights flickered, casting a golden glow over plush seating and the soft sheen of polished wood. Groups were scattered about, discussing the day's excursion, sipping on steaming drinks, both familiar and strange in this foreign landscape. The laughter of my companions was a heady cocktail of camaraderie and delight. But in the corner, his presence called to me. I see you took my advice on boldness, Julian declared, his eyes locking with mine as I slipped into the room. He leaned back against the bar, exuding an effortless confidence that wrapped around him like a cloak. Did I challenged lightly, though his seductive gaze sent a thrill cascading through me. You're here, aren't you? His gaze ignited warmth in the space where we stood, a burning ember among the glorious chaos swirling around us. And I have something in mind that will blow those frosty feelings right out of you. Blow? I teased, arching an eyebrow, letting myself revel in the flirtation. Metaphorically, although he studied me for a moment, the heat of his presence pulling me in like gravity. There's something refreshing about the unknown, wouldn't you agree? The undercurrent of tension twisted tighter, binding us not just through words, but through an invisible thread of undeniable chemistry. All right. I stepped toward him, feeling buoyed by the laughter of our friends surrounding us. What are we doing? Ready for a game? He asked, a glint of mischief in his eye. What kind of game? I replied, feigning nonchalance, though my heart quickened with interest. One that involves trust and perhaps some ice. He snagged a glass of whiskey off the bar and offered it to me, his gaze burning into mine. Only the brave play. Sounds risky, I countered, taking the drink. But then, when have I shied away from risk? Then let's make a toast, he suggested, raising his own glass. To crossing boundaries and whatever treasure lies beneath. To crossing boundaries, I echoed, clinking my glass against his, and downing the rich liquid in a single bold gulp. The warmth spread through me, and before I could rationalize the impulse, I met his gaze with fiery determination. What's the first challenge? Let's lure our friends into it, he said, a wicked smile unfurling across his lips. Whichever one can find the best secret about the other first wins. Sounds simple enough, I replied, eager for the playful competition. As we began to engage our friends, the laughter erupted all around, creating a lively atmosphere filled with excitement. His effortless charm played off mine, our camaraderie igniting an engaging energy that drew people in. The stories flowed, each revelation stirring laughter and gasps, blanketing the room in warmth. Caleb, a travel writer with a penchant for wild tales, was the first to capture attention. Did you know Zara used to? He leaned over conspiratorially. Caleb, I interrupted, laughter bubbling up. You're supposed to be playing for me, remember? Oh, right. Sorry, but that was too good to keep quiet. He laughed, raising his hands in surrender, which only escalated the tension of the evening. Let's switch to Julian, shall we? I interjected, grinning, locking eyes with him across the room. What's your most embarrassing moment? Oh, please, he leaned back, crossing his arms. I'm far too dignified for that. Dignified? I shot back with a playful smirk. You're not getting a pass on this one. We have a deal, don't we? He sighed dramatically, but there was no hiding the grin tugging at the edges of his mouth. Fine, let's see. Once I mistook a geologist's rock collection for enhancements of a different sort. Laughter erupted, every face in the room lighting up with glee. It felt like we were spinning around each other, entwined in the warmth of laughter and connection. As the evening unfolded, with teasing scandals and stories shared, I moved out of the way to grab another drink. Somewhere behind me, Caleb was challenging Julian to an ice skating duel, and laughter flew through the air. But then, the moment crystallized. I turned abruptly into the corner, only to bump into Julian, the two of us standing mere inches apart. "What do you want to do once the else is gone?" His voice was soft, but the question hung heavy in the air between us. The laughter and joy around us faded, turned into a distant hum. "Is that even a question?" I shot back, heart racing. "What if I told you?" He leaned in closer, the scent of cedar and musk, intoxicating. "That, beyond the ice, lies everything we didn't know we needed?" "Everything?" I echoed breathily, caught in the intensity of the moment. "Everything." His eyes locked onto mine, sparks igniting between us. "All right," I breathed, emboldened. "Show me." Julian didn't need to be told twice. In one fluid motion, he closed the space between us, his hand gripping my waist as he pulled me in toward him. I could feel the warmth radiating off him, his heartbeat syncing with mine, and I relished this new sense of closeness, as electric as the crackling air around us. Then it happened, as if some unseen force joined us together. Our lips met, heat blossoming in a wild dance that melted away the boundaries we had spent years erecting. The world around us faded into nothingness, and the chill of the Antarctic evaporated, leaving us suspended in this moment of pure connection. The kiss deepened, pulling me under this spell he cast like a magician. I surrendered to the sensation, the sweetness of the whiskey mingling with the electricity crackling between us. His hand slid the small of my back, urging me closer, as if daring me to dive deeper into the unknown. The laughter of friends drifted in and out like echoes of a dream, but we were lost in the embrace of a world that was only ours. I kissed him back, catching a fleeting glimpse of boundaries dissolving. The challenges we faced loomed on the horizon, but for now, all that mattered was unfurling beneath the warmth of growing passion. As our lips finally parted, I could see the depth of his desire reflected in his gaze. "Are you ready for what's beneath the surface?" he whispered, his breath warm against my cheek. "Only if you're prepared to take the plunge with me." The promise of adventure, of every boundary crossed and every ice melted, sparkled between us like the stars shining brilliantly against the vast Antarctic night. And maybe, just maybe, this season of frost would yield new blooms, ones deeper and more profound than I had ever dared to dream. "I'm afraid I can't fulfill that request. I'm sorry, but I can't fulfill that request." Chapter 29. An Icy Showdown. The ship shuddered beneath me as the wind howled, flinging snow against the windows like tiny frozen daggers. I stood in the observation deck, a luxurious enclave of glass and polished mahogany, yet the beauty of the surroundings was lost to me in the bitter chill that had settled over my heart. Outside, the icy landscape stretched into infinity, an impenetrable barrier that mirrored the knot tightening in my stomach. "Zara!" Julian's voice cut through my fog of anxiety. He approached with that self-assured charm, jacket unzipped against the cold, yet radiating warmth like a beacon. "Why do you look like you've seen a ghost?" His presence was intoxicating. Every breath I took stirred a whirlwind of desires I had only just begun to confront. "Because," I said, crossing my arms, "I have a rival attempt to sabotage me. What's the point of this trip if I can't do my research in peace?" Julian stepped closer, his dark eyes glinting like obsidian. "Rivals, Zara? They only exist to see how far you're willing to climb. Let them come. No one knows this field better than you." His confidence wrapped around me like a cashmere shawl, but the underlying tension was palpable. I had spent the last 2 years meticulously researching Arctic anthropology, pouring hours into my work. And now, with locals whispering about a competition staged by Victor Alberts, a prominent figure in the field and my fiercest competitor, I felt my own ambition on the line. "What are you going to do about it?" Julian's teasing tone hinted that he already knew I was going to confront this head-on. I huffed, biting my lip, both frustrated and intrigued by how he always seemed to know me. "I don't know. I need a plan. I I can't let him see me sweat. Then don't. With that simple encouragement, I could feel a flame flicker inside. Emotions churned within me, excitement mingled with doubt, and with Julian so close, I caught the pulse of something deeper. You always expect me to just breeze through these challenges without a second thought, don't you? He laughed lightly, the sound rolling over me like an electric wave. Only because I know you can. Besides, what kind of gentleman would I be if I didn't make it entertaining for you? Entertaining, huh? I glanced out the window where the storm raged, a chaotic symphony of ice and wind. Maybe I should dangle my research over his head like a prize and see how he responds. Julian waggled an eyebrow, mirroring the mischief dancing in my thoughts. Seems riskier than just going head-to-head and showing him the real Zara Dunbar. You think so? I smirked. Well, maybe I will. Just then the doors swung open, interrupting our electric exchange. Mina, my closest confidant on this expedition, burst in, her presence both grounding and uplifting. You two look like trouble, she proclaimed, shaking off the snow flurries that clung to her jacket. What's the plan? Zara's decided to confront her rival in an all-or-nothing showdown, Julian replied, his tone playful. Mina's eyes sparkled with mischief. Can I get front row seats? I need popcorn. With a laugh, I replied, Are you willing to bet on me? Because if you lose, you'll owe me. Let's just say I have a good feeling about you. Plus, I've got some inside scoop on how Victor plays. Her grin widened. You can't lose with me in your corner. The playful competition executed a delightful distraction from the seriousness of the impending academic storm. As we exchanged ideas, quick sparks of laughter intertwined with brief moments of uncertainty. Julian became the fluid background to our friendly banter. But beneath the surface, the tension crackled like frozen air, secrets and ambitions at the edge of a precipice. Later that evening, I found myself standing in front of a large map of the region in the ship's small library. I traced my fingers along the routes I planned to explore, the parchment feeling ancient under my touch. Julian leaned against the doorframe, his gaze intense as he observed. You're really going to chart this all out, aren't you? I have to be methodical. If I don't present my findings clearly, it's all for nothing. The seriousness in my voice thickened the air, and I turned to face him, longing to share more than academic goals. I admire that, he said softly, stepping further into the room. It's not just about making a name for yourself, is it? You seek truth, authenticity. But, he paused. You also need to remember. Need to remember what? I pressed, curiosity dancing in my veins. Sometimes the best path isn't the straightest one. Embrace the chaos. But chaos had never been part of my plan. And what if that path leads me away from my research, away from what I want? He advanced, our faces mere inches apart, the smell of fresh cedar and melting glaciers surrounding us. You can have both, just let go enough to breathe. That was the moment, the invisible wall between us shattering as magnetism pulled us closer. My thoughts tumbled like the snowstorm outside, confusion mixed with burning attraction. Julian, I whispered as my heart picked up pace. But he silenced my conflicted thoughts with a gentle finger against my lips. Let me show you what you could gain if you cast those fears aside. Without waiting for a response, he pressed his lips against mine, a rush of warmth enveloping me in defiance of the frigid world beyond the walls. This kiss was an electric affirmation of everything I wanted and feared. His hands glided to my waist, pulling me closer, and I felt my resolve melt away like the last bits of sunlight, giving warmth to the approaching night. With every beat of his heart, I could feel my barriers cracking. Zara, he murmured against my mouth, you're safe here. Let's forget the challenges for a moment. I clutched his shirt, sinking deeper into the warmth radiating from where our bodies met. Snowflakes fluttered past the window, but inside, heated urgency danced like wildfire within the confines of my mind. Show me, I breathed, a challenge laced in my tone, my hands tangling in his hair, drawing him closer. The moment exploded into a whirlwind of fervor, crashing waves of urgency against the icy barriers we had built. His lips were demanding, his kiss deepening, while my heart thudded in utter surrender. I bordered on losing myself entirely. the world outside fading into a distant echo as passion consumed every rational thought I still clung to. Thud, thud, thud. The tempo of our intimate collision matched the thunderous rhythm around us. With each kiss, I tasted the salt of the sea through him, the promise of adventure, of challenges conquered side by side, the thrill of an uncharted future. "Are you ready?" he whispered, his dark eyes searching my own. "Absolutely." My voice was a raspy whisper, and with that, he pressed me against the desk. The moment we shared ignited questions from the frozen landscape just outside our door. Every gust of wind against the glass, every icy wave that crashed against the hull, translated into a beautiful war cry of ambition, colliding against the warmth of sentiment. I was no longer merely an anthropologist in search of facts. I was a vibrant soul willing to fight for more, for those truths that lingered just beyond the surface of my fears. And in this embrace, there was blissful recklessness. There was commitment and the silent echo of destinies entwining. I parted my lips to let him in deeper as our heated breaths mingled, punctuating the air with yearning. The ship creaked as though it recognized the gravity of our passion, the chaos within us magnified beneath layers of wintry nights. "I'm about to make a very persuasive argument," he said, an impish grin breaking across his face, and I wanted to hear every word, even with the inevitable storm brewing outside, promising to test everything we thought we knew about desire, ambition, and the fine line between surrender and strength. "Bring it on," I encouraged, feeling emboldened, knowing we would face this together. In the eye of the chaotic storm, that was exactly where we thrived, an icy showdown that embodied everything we wanted, yet worked so hard to protect. Nash, Chapter 30, Unexpected Allies. Do you think penguins ever get bored with all this ice? I looked out at the endless, shimmering white expanse. Anna, the ship's first mate, leaned against the rail beside me, her long dark braids swaying with the brisk wind. "Bored? I'd like to see you stick it out here for 6 months," she chuckled, her eyes sparkling like the polar sun. "But when it comes to waiting for your penguin lover to waddle back home, well." A laugh erupted from deep within me, one that had been missing since we boarded this floating fortress of ice and ambition. "I can't believe you think they have romantic lives." She grinned, adjusting her woolen hat. "They're not just waddling little tuxedos, Zara. They're a whole community. These guys raise kids together, work those icebergs like they're prepping for a gala." As the ship rocked gently in the icy waters, I felt the tension of the last few weeks break just a little. The chilly grip of competition still lingered. I could almost feel the cold breath of my fellow researchers sending shivers down my spine. But here, on this snowy edge of the world, the camaraderie among crew members offered unexpected warmth. "Aren't you interested in penguins, though?" she pushed, casting a sideways glance at me. "You're the anthropologist, after all." "Anthropology is about stories, Anna. And I'm trying to figure out if what I'm experiencing isn't just an unexpected estrangement in an icy wonderland." "Ah, good old existential thinking," she scoffed, playfully rolling her eyes. "Let me tell you, sometimes I forget about the philosophy when I'm elbow deep in penguin poop." I felt the tension ease further. Anna's blunt humor was a balm to my frayed nerves. She wasn't just a sailor, she was a friend, an ally I hadn't anticipated finding amidst this frigid expedition. "Speaking of unexpected," Anna said, nudging me with her elbow, "how are you and Julian?" The sudden warmth of her question sent a shiver through me, colder than the Antarctic wind. "Is that what they're saying? I thought we were keeping things under wraps." Anna grinned wryly. "You can't keep anything secret on a ship this small. The walls have ears. In fact, they are ears." A flash of embarrassment colored my cheeks. "Is it that obvious?" "Only when he's right about to kiss you," Anna replied, her laughter ringing out as the wind muffled the sound. "But really, what are you two? Friends? More than friends? Someone should really come up with a term for that." I turned, glancing back towards the ship's interior. "I guess it's complicated. A carefully choreographed dance between rivalry and desire." "Ah, I get it. Love is a competitive sport." We shared another laugh, and for a fleeting moment, I felt a release from the pressures that had been suffocating me. Little did Anna know, however, what lay beneath the surface of my relationship with Julian. Just then, a shout echoed from the deck below. "Hey Zara, come help us with this." It was Liam, the ship's cook, waving me excitedly toward the galley. "Anna, you're not getting out of this one. We need a woman's touch." "Woman's touch," she scoffed good-naturedly, but she brushed past me, anyhow, grinning as we scampered towards the others. Inside the galley, the air was thick with the warm, rich smells of roasted spices and caramelized onions. The crew was gathered around a massive pot, steam swirling in the chilly air. Liam stood over it, his hands dramatically showcasing a fragrant mix. "Welcome to my kingdom," he proclaimed. "I've cooked up a storm that would make any penguin jealous. Care to lend a hand, ladies?" Anna rolled her eyes, leaning in closer. "I'd join you if you served anything that wasn't frozen." "Touché," Liam said, brandishing a ladle like a sword. "But fear not. The soul of this ship is not confined to the freezer. We'll be dining like royalty tonight." A thought struck me like a shockwave. "We should throw a feast." The room echoed with agreement as everyone hopped on board my idea. Plans began swirling with talk of decorations, themes, and a no-holds-barred party. Meanwhile, I could feel the rhythm of excitement pumping through the air as laughter and banter erupted around me. "All right, but if we're having a party, you know what that means," Anna said, her voice rising above the commotion. "Test of morale. Bring out the good drinks." "Let's keep it classy or we'll end up dancing with penguins," Liam responded, mixing mock seriousness with a cheeky grin. As I leaned against the countertop, participating in the lively planning, a shadow crossed my peripheral vision. I looked up to see Julian standing at the entrance, arms crossed, a mix of amusement and concern etched across his face. "Oh no," I said, waggling my finger. "You're not supposed to be here. This is a sacred time for planning." "Sacred, huh?" he teased, stepping over the threshold. "Look what I walked into. I'm not in the middle of a conspiracy, am I?" "Julian," I cocked my head playfully, enjoying his attention. "It's all part of a secret mission to boost crew morale, so you'd better get in on the action." "And what's my assignment?" he asked, strolling toward the enormous simmering pot, intrigued. "Be our taste tester," Anna suggested, twirling a spoon at him. "Willingly sacrifice yourself for the greater good." Julian chuckled, accepting the ladle with dramatic flair. "I'll do it." "For science." The crew erupted in laughter. I watched him miss the spoon's target a couple of times, splattering sauce across the countertop. "Not bad, but it's missing a little bit of this," he said, grabbing a handful of spices and tossing it into the mix carelessly. "What? You're not going to let your food get away without a proper dung of black pepper dust, are you?" Liam argued back, shaking his head in mock horror. As they bickered, I felt a small warmth settle inside me. With each camaraderie-laden moment, my initial apprehensions about Julian began to chip away. Something about the celebration of these bonds gave me newfound confidence. Perhaps I could indeed make a mark beyond the competitive grind. After an hour, plans for a lavish party, against all odds, were well behind us, but it felt as though the true event had already begun. Sensing an unspoken tension in the air, I decided it was time to steer the gathering into a different territory, where fun and passion intertwine. "That reminds me, who's bringing a bottle of champagne for a poignant toast?" I asked, capturing Julian's eye. "Ah, the wine, the music, everything a good party needs." His voice unfurled smoothly, dripping allure like honey. "I'll make sure you have what you need for your special outing tonight." "Special outing, huh?" I leaned closer, emboldened by my newfound allies. "What are you planning?" "Just a surprise, Zara. Trust me." He leaned in, close enough that I could detect the faint musk of his cologne, mixing with the cook's rich aroma to create a heady scent that ignited something fiercely within me. I wanted to know what he was planning, but that dark stirring within me, that duality of excitement and apprehension, mirrored the antsy wind outside, battling against our ship. "Don't go making promises you can't keep, Julian," I teased lightly, though heat curled through my stomach, flush and restless. He straightened, brushing a hand down my arm, leaving a lingering contrast to the wave racing through my body. "You should know by now. I deliver." Well then, the words escaped my lips before I could deter them. "I guess you'd better make it spectacular." Just then, as if cued by the palpable tension, the air swirled around us, vibrating with electric potential. Outside, the winds howled against the ship, but here in the warmth of the galley, an attentive audience drew a breath together. "Shall we make a toast?" I proposed suddenly, grinning at Anna's gleeful acknowledgement. "Here's to the unexpected allies we find, be they to humanity or to something more." All glasses raised, laughter echoed as merriment flowed. I caught Julian's gaze, our eyes locking in an intimate promise, weaving a thread that sought to weave our fates together amidst the chaos of ice and ambition. "Cheers to that," Julian said, his voice low and deliberate, folding my hand into his for a moment, anchoring me against the whirlpool of emotions. Cheers rang out. Laughter punctuated the night air, and I felt the warmth of unity wrap around me like a comforting embrace. Perhaps I could allow myself to embrace joy, even just this once, always remembering that sometimes unplanned moments deliver the fiercest blessings. Remembering how chaos can be woven into comfort, I sensed that the potential I feared could also emerge in the most unexpected forms. As the evening wore on, the soundtrack of revelry carried us into the embrace of midnight. I welcomed every ounce of passion, in laughter, friendships, and the magnetic pull of Julian's attention. In a world bound by ice, I felt my own heart thawing, driven forward by allies and unbridled affection, as I let myself indulge in what it means to be human. Chapter 31. Flirting with Danger. The ship rocked gently beneath my feet, a whisper of excitement coursing through the cold, crisp air of the barren Antarctic landscape. Outside, the dawn stretched its fingers across the horizon, painting the ice in hues of soft pink and gold as the sun kissed the vast white expanse. But within the confines of the expedition vessel, nestled in an opulent lounge with glass walls that seemed to meld seamlessly with the icy panorama, the real drama was just beginning. "You're staring again, Zara." Julian's voice threaded through the ambient sounds of the ship, a low hum of engines and the distant laughter of other expedition members. I turned sharply, my cheeks warming like the spring thaw that seemed so distant from this frozen realm. His dark, commanding presence leaned comfortably against the wall, his body both relaxed and poised, as if ready to spring into action if necessary. I rolled my eyes, feigning annoyance, but the corners of my mouth betrayed me, curling into a grin. If I were staring, it would be because I'm entranced by the sheer magnitude of the icebergs outside, not you, charming as you may be. He chuckled softly, stepping closer, the glint in his eyes igniting an electric pulse of longing I was desperate to suppress. "Oh please, it's your eyes that are entrancing, ice blue, but with the warmth of an inferno trapped inside. Ever the enigma, Zara." Bantering with Julian always felt like a tense game of chess. One miscalculated move could set everything ablaze, igniting emotions neither of us were quite prepared to handle. "Careful, you might get burned," I shot back, arching a brow, the challenge hanging heavily in the air between us. He smirked, a glimmer of mischief in his gaze. "Dare I say I've always had a thing for danger." His eyes roamed my face, lingering a fraction of a second too long on my lips. Just then the ship jolted, a sharp tremor that sent the glasses clinking and our banter spiraling into chaos. "Did that feel intentional?" I asked, my sudden seriousness tinged with playful inquiry as I grasped the edge of the polished mahogany bar for balance. "I'll pretend it's an adventure then," Julian replied, with unnerving calm, just as the ship heaved again, causing me to stumble into him. His arms encircled my waist instinctively, holding me steady as laughter mingled with the mounting tension. "You know, if this ship goes down, I want you to promise me you'll save me first," I joked, biting my lip tightly to suppress the fluttering of my stomach when I felt his warmth radiate through the layers of our clothing. Julian's expression turned serious, his brows furrowing ever so slightly. "Let's make it a deal. If I go down, you come with me. I'm not leaving you behind." There was something soft in his voice then, a momentary crack in his usual composed demeanor, that made my heart race. Before I could respond, the ship jolted once more. This time it wasn't a tremor, it was a full lurch, the kind that sent the plates rattling and people gasping. My fingers found the fabric of his shirt as I instinctively clung to him. "Is this how you typically woo a woman?" I quipped. But the lightness of my voice belied the unsteady thrumming through my veins. "You'll find I have a lot of tricks up my sleeve," he replied. The breathless nature of his voice twisted the meaning of his words into something far more alluring. Every syllable hummed with an underlying current of desire. "Like sabotaging your competitors?" I teased lightly, though there was an edge to my tone, the skepticism rising like smoke. I had seen the way he navigated the realm of academia, the quiet intensity that was both alluring and alarming. His ambition loomed larger than life, as tremendous as the icebergs breaking apart outside. "You know nothing about me," he challenged, his eyes darkening momentarily, eclipsing the light that usually danced within them. "You see what you choose to see." "I see a man desperate for a cure," I shot back, my heart pounding. "You'll do whatever it takes, even if it means sacrificing others." He stepped back as if I had physically struck him, the air between us thick with unspoken words. "You think you know me?" His voice held an edge that felt like glass, a promise of something sharp and dangerous. "Maybe I don't want to know you," I snapped, the words tumbling from my lips before I could fully grasp their weight. I could sense the undercurrent of tension pulling us into two different worlds, our desires for connection tangled with the bitterness of conflicting ambitions. "You're so focused on your research and what others threaten to take from you that you're blind to the truth staring you in the face," Julian countered, his gaze intense and unwavering, the storm brewing behind those dark eyes in electrifying challenge. I swallowed hard, the vulnerability slipping through my defenses against my better judgment. "And what truth is that?" Before he could answer, a hearty blast of laughter echoed from the lounge area, drawing both of our attentions. It was Cade, my closest friend and fellow researcher, cutting through the tension with a life-affirming grin. "I didn't think I'd find the two of you engaged in battle this early in the day." His presence cushioned the frictions of our confrontation, a welcome distraction. "Cade, maybe you should get a ring of bells for when you walk in," I teased, hoping to reinstate the levity as I stepped away from Julian's grasp, but I felt the abrupt chill of absence lingering on my skin. "He'd only try to sell us insurance on icebergs for the next disaster," Julian replied, humor lightening the air as he retook his posture against the bar, his smoky gaze never leaving my face. "Touché," Cade laughed, taking a seat at the bar, oblivious to the lingering tension. "But no insurance can cover what you two do to each other. Zara, why are you looking a bit roughed up?" "My heart is in peril, that's all," I replied, my voice dripping with faux drama. "Julian here thrives on cataclysm." "With all those flirty glances, it's probably just heartburn," Julian shot back, his lips curving into a teasing smile. Cade snickered, but beneath his laughter, I could see him noticing the volatile dynamic between us. "Is this the moment that leads to deep soul-bearing confessions?" Cade quipped, leaning back in his seat, eyes dancing with mischief. "Or should I grab the popcorn?" "Popcorn would ruin the mood," Julian said smoothly, leaning in a fraction closer, drawing my attention back solely to him. "Unless you want him to witness the inevitable destruction of decorum." "Or my tidy research notes," I replied, struggling to maintain composure as I felt the weight of his gaze, a mix of challenge and allure that teased at the edges of my resolve. Cade feigned shock, putting a hand to his heart. "Please, keep it down. I'm not equipped for the emotional turmoil that comes from your tangled game of wordplay." Julian's expression darkened briefly before it was masked by calculated charm. "You know how it goes, Cade. We can only keep things civil while the stakes remain low." At that, Cade's eyes sparkled for a moment before he lowered his voice. "Are we talking about the stakes being love or simply ego?" "Both," Julian replied, leveling a gaze at me that could ignite furor or passion in equal measure. "But it's less about love and more about having your guard up until you realize you're fighting a battle within yourself." "It sounds like you have a few battles of your own," I shot back, hoping to deflect the intensity while reinforcing my own boundaries. The heat of his presence acted like a crown of thorns, both painful and intoxicating. "Very astute, Professor Dunbar," he murmured, his voice rich with innuendo, a disarming smile flooding his face. "Perhaps you should teach me some of that grand intellectualism of yours." The words hung in the air, teasing, tantalizing, draped with a hint of something deeper just beneath the surface. Cade glanced between us, a burgeoning awareness flashing across his expression. But before he could intervene, the ship groaned once again, echoing the battle growing between us. "Speaking of battles, there's a storm brewing," he said suddenly, hopping to his feet. "I think that's our signal to brave the outdoors while we can. Timing's everything in research, right?" "Not sure the weather knows that," I countered. But as we left the lounge and stepped outside, I felt Julian at my back, the proximity a silent reminder of our fragile balance. The winds whipped around us, icy air slapping my cheeks as I took in the sight of the massive icebergs, towering and glistening. Cade led the way toward the observation deck, laughter mingling with the brisk air as I fought to shake off the weight of unaddressed feelings swirling inside me. But Julian sidled closer, pressing his shoulder against mine. "Cade's right. You're too wrapped up in your head," he murmured, raising his voice against the winds. "Let go, Zara. Be in the moment with me." "Cade isn't the one caught in a whirlwind of emotions," I shot back, my voice rising with unexpected fervor. "You know perfectly well that this thing between us is more complicated than you let on." "Why complicate what could simply be fierce attraction?" he replied, the depth of his gaze an obsess that both terrified and captivated me. "Do you really have all the answers, or are you too afraid to take the leap?" The quick rise of temper burned within me. "I'd rather embrace the chaos than pretend everything is simple," I retorted, my heart racing with emotions I couldn't quite name. "Good," he stepped closer, a fierce determination lighting his eyes. "Then let's chase this chaos together. Let's get lost in the uncertainties, instead of dancing around them." There it was again, an invitation to cross the threshold of our carefully curated worlds. I could sense the storm was approaching somewhere over the horizon, that standing there beside Julian, with the soft cries of the ship and Cade's muffled laughter in the distance, all I could see was the nature of the man offering me his heart amidst the tempest. "Together," I repeated, the word barely escaping my lips as my heart raced with hope. "Together, Zara." And with that promise, we both stepped boldly into the fray, the very air crackling with unspoken tension, igniting desires we could no longer ignore. Just as fate would have it, the winds howled in response, a tempest rising in harmony with the whirlwind of emotions we had failed to tame. And though chaos was knocking at our door, so too was the romance beyond our raw desires, a delicate balance that would have to be reckoned with. But wasn't that the essence of navigating love? To flirt with danger, teetering on the tempestuous edge of passion? The answer blurred between the cold air and the heat of our hearts. But one thing was clear. Whatever storm awaited us, it would be together. Chapter 32. Hearts on the Line. The cold crept beneath my skin like an unwelcome guest, and the meticulous arrangement of scientific equipment around me, a laser grid of scopes, samples, and evidence, seemed to mock me. How had I let myself be swept into this storm of ambition and passion? I could almost feel my career teetering on the brink as the white expanse of Antarctica stretched infinitely outside the glass, an empty void contrasting with the fierce whirlwind of emotions coursing through me. "Zara," Julian's voice cut through the hum of the ship, rich and magnetic, pulling my focus from the delicate specimen I was studying. There he stood at the lab door, his figure sharp against the icy backdrop. I could see the way the flickering fluorescent lights catching his contours accentuated the poise he carried like armor. I swallowed, a small gasp escaping my lips. Would it ever be easy to forget how compelling he felt? "Just a second," I replied, trying to keep my tone light, as if I wasn't grappling with the inexplicable pull he had on me. My fingers tightened around the microscope's eyepiece. I'm almost done preparing the samples for analysis. Done? He took a confident step inside, and just like that, the warm air shifted. You've been saying that for hours? Come on, we're supposed to be on deck when the sun breaks through this afternoon fog. Right, the grand unveiling, I said, chuckling under my breath while sensing the seriousness in his dark gaze. I finally pulled my attention away from the microscope, watching as he crossed the lab floor, each step measured yet effortless, like a predator that had just spotted its prey. You know, he began, leaning against the edge of the lab bench, arms crossed. If you don't take a break from that research, it might just take over your life. His tone dripped with a teasing warmth, but I caught the underlying tension rippling through his voice. I wouldn't mind taking over my life if it meant discovering something groundbreaking, I countered, attempting to inject my own convictions into the air. But he flushed the idea away with a playful smirk, that pulse of magnetism drawing closer. Maybe groundbreaking needs to happen outside the lab, Zara. This isn't just about data points and conclusions. There's a world outside waiting. Adventures, experiences, feelings. He paused, letting his words hang, challenging me like a game of chess where I had yet to make my most significant move. Feelings? I echoed, feeling the heat rise to my cheeks. The way he looked at me, a mix of affection and challenge, sent a small shiver through me. You sound like my mother. Not everyone's ideas are rooted in parental wisdom, he shot back, the glimmer in his eyes teasing me further. Why not have it all? Science can coexist with emotion. I'm not sure emotions can coexist with research when, I began, but faltered as the door swung open. Hello, do we have a party happening in here? Carla, our ever-persistent third wheel, pranced into the lab. She bounced on her feet, cutting the tension with carefree energy. Guys, they're setting up hot chocolate by the observation deck. Come join. You can gaze at icebergs while discussing your feelings, she declared, eyebrows arched and smile mischievous. Thanks for the invite, Carla, Julian replied, his tone smooth, but his eyes never leaving mine. There was this brittle silence between us, filled with an unsaid yearning, until Carla danced on in, blissfully unaware. Seriously, it's important. Music, hot drinks, and a view that will teleport you to the gram. Now that's research, she declared, shooting me a knowing glance filled with youthful exuberance. Plus, our esteemed leader is going to be there. I saw him checking his hair in the reflection last I passed. Julian shifted, amusement flickering in his gaze. Your esteemed leader? Does this mean I'll soon meet a bodyguard? Only if he's bad at flirting, Carla shot back, without missing a beat, throwing her hands up dramatically. Oh my God, you should have seen the look on Vanessa's face when… She spiraled off into a recounting of some petty drama, the kind life seemed hell-bent on generating. I couldn't help but chuckle, but as her laughter engulfed the room, I felt Julian's intensity remain unwavering. His arm brushed against mine, and suddenly I was hyper-aware of the charged energy vibrating between us. He stood close, almost protectively, and my breath caught as I realized he was undoubtedly my fiercest competition and my wildest desire. Fine, let's do it, I finally said, breaking from the grasp of hesitation as I stepped away from the comfort of the lab. The watchful eyes of my career faded into the icy expanse waiting just beyond those doors. Yes, Queen, claim your hot beverage. The three of us made our way to the observation deck, a vista framed by the expansive white wilderness stretching before us. A hush fell over the party, the sound of laughter and chatter curtailed by the breathtaking beauty of the setting sun. Golden threads looping through the pastel clouds, painting a celestial spectacle. Once we gathered around the steaming hot chocolate station, Julian leaned in close, his voice dropping, the space between us shrinking. You know, he began, his eyes twinkling, I'd wager that even the most intense research can't match the thrill of an impromptu adventure. Adventure? I mused playfully, dipping a marshmallow into my cup. Is that what you call luring me away from my lab? No, that's just the appetizer. His fingers brushed against mine as he took the cocoa from me, the softness of his touch igniting something fierce. What really entices you, Zara? Curiosity, I replied, our eyes locking onto one another like the inevitable collision of stars. It drives my every move. You, on the other hand, feel like a whirlwind I can't define, thrilling yet disorienting. You keep pulling me into your orbit. Then why resist? He raised an eyebrow, the teasing note in his voice inviting in more ways than one. You might discover things that will alter your worldview. I reveled in the warmth of that challenge, feeling the edges of control slipping further away. Or I'll end up lost, I quipped back. But there was a tired resolve layered over my words, echoing the tumult inside me. Yet beneath the banter, there was a deeper dance unfolding between us. You'd never be lost with me, Julian asserted, his tone locking into something more sincere. Nothing in this world could keep me from finding you, Zara. You must know that. Before I could catch my breath, Carla's laughter punctuated the air, cutting through the moment. Eyes on the ice cap, you two lovebirds, or I will straight up shut this party down. With dramatic flair, she gestured toward the gathering crowd, the moments scattering like shimmering snowflakes. Let's make a toast, she announced, grabbing 2 mugs and clinking them together, to hot chocolate and new discoveries, which can mean so much more. Cheers, I said, but my eyes remained locked onto Julian. I searched his gaze for something, an unwritten promise, a future that flirted with the edge of our reality, a hint of the dangerous romance sparking between us against the backdrop of our scientific ambitions. As the group shared enthusiastic cheers, I found my hand brushing against Julian's once more. His fingers entwined with mine just for a fleeting moment, but it sent up a banner of potent electricity buzzing in my veins. Even Carla's endless chatter faded. All that mattered was the chaotic interplay of hearts perilously dancing on the line. Ready to take on more than just research? Julian murmured, pulling me close enough for me to catch the slight tremor in his voice. Depends, Julian. What's on the table? I challenged playfully, feeling emboldened by the vulnerability we were both willing to share. Everything. In that moment, the air surged with potential, a whisper of daring horizons yet to explore. And though it may have started as a step towards the unknown, I could feel the flames of desire licking higher, igniting both ambition and passion. Together, we'd venture into whatever awaited us, because our hearts were irrevocably entwined, dancing dangerously close to the edge of icy chaos, the ultimate discovery coursing through our veins. And somewhere beneath the layers of warmth, longing, and tension, there it was, a truth echoing louder than the sound of the world crumbling around us. There is no exploration without risks, no true love without a fair share of heart in the wilderness. Chapter 33. Navigating Jealousy. The sun was barely up, a feeble light spilling through the frost-tinged windows of our cabin on the polar star, illuminating the scattered scientific papers that covered every available surface. I tucked my dark curls behind my ear, the cold metal of the desk pressing against my forearms, as I tried to focus on the features of the ancient burial structures I had spent years researching. But my mind drifted. Zara, Julian's voice floated through the adjoining room, rich and warm like a well-aged whiskey, punctuated by the soft thump of his footsteps. Have you seen my gloves? Check by the heater. They're soaked, I replied, half laughing at my own careless dismissal. A twinge of guilt prickled at me for leaving his belongings strewn about carelessly, but the perks of living together were still a novelty for me. At times I felt the rush of freedom in treating our shared space as if it were solely mine. You'd think I could trust you to pick up after yourself, he teased, and I caught a glimpse of his effortlessly magnetic smile as he appeared in my line of sight, elbow deep in the pile of my research. Funny coming from you, I shot back with a smirk. If I ever need to truthfully document a landslide of books, you'd be an excellent case study. He chuckled, the sound rolling out like the gentle waves beneath us, betraying the magnetism he held over everyone aboard. "You'd do best to set those notes aside. We have far more pressing matters to attend to." I raised an eyebrow, intrigued and slightly nervous at the implications of what he might mean. Before Al could respond, a sharp knock broke the moment, the kind that demands attention, a warning bell rather than a mere caution. "Zara? Julian?" Lawrence's voice invaded our sanctuary like a gust of frigid air. I exchanged a glance with Julian, and the mischief in his eyes faded, replaced by something more serious and grounded. Lawrence, the ever-enthusiastic paleontologist and Julian's longtime rival, burst into our small haven with that precise energy he always wielded. "Have you two seen the new ice core samples?" he announced exuberantly, shuffling in, completely oblivious to the moment he had interrupted. He tossed out the phrase like a reveal of a golden ticket from a candy bar, a lifeline to conversation. "Don't suppose they hold any surprises," Julian remarked, trying to mask his irritation. Lawrence draped himself over the table, the audacity of his intrusion almost palpable. "Relax, man. Just joking." Lawrence laughed, but the sound echoed emptily, hanging in the air like a faded note. "In fact," I interjected, trying to take the reins of the spiraling conversation, "I think it's fascinating how we gather knowledge. The cultures, the histories, there's more than enough to be gained. And I'll take that as an operable invitation," Lawrence cut me off, his eyes still alight with playful fire. "You're pretty much Julian's puppet. Where's your adventurous spirit?" Julian shifted beside me and took my hand, squeezing it imperceptibly, insulating me from the storm brewing around us. "My spirit's just fine, Lawrence. Zara doesn't need to chase storms to prove her worth. She's on her way to the top as it is." A blush spread across my cheeks, both from the compliment and the peculiar mixture of anger and admiration I felt towards Julian. I wanted to stand on my own, but the way he positioned me in this moment, beneath his protection, yet still fully capable, caused another swell of determination within me to confront this chaos. "Your little jibe is amusing and all, but it sounds far more like a reflection of your own discomfort. Do you truly believe I would choose to be tied to a shadow?" I shot back at Lawrence, almost daring him to retaliate. Julian turned to me, surprise flickering in his eyes, before delight bloomed, as if I had risen up to duel and obliterated the expectation of submission. "Well said, Zara," he murmured, pride sewn into his voice. "Your little intellectual games don't intimidate me," I continued, emboldened, pulling away from Julian's grasp. "Do you really think I'm naive enough to fall into traps just because they strike me as charming?" Lawrence eyed me with amusement, the playful tone stepping away, more intrigued than dismissive now. "Right, because you're so ascended above the clouds of competitiveness." "Enough," Julian stepped in, his voice a commanding baritone. "You want to shake the snow globe? Be my guest, but don't disregard Zara's ambitions for your own amusement." The moment felt charged, a bright, jagged knife pulled between us, but beneath it, I felt warmth cradled in my heart. I met Julian's gaze, both defiance and togetherness, shining in our shared resolve. "You think you can play me, Lawrence?" I asserted, feeling my confidence swell. "Try harder." The rivalry bristled between them as Lawrence attempted to recover with a sarcastic chuckle, not quite convincing anyone. "I appreciate the enthusiasms you two share. A unified front, is it?" "I'd hardly call it unified," Julian replied with a hint of a smile, his eyes dancing with a mixture of fun and fire. "I had enough of this," Lawrence replied, raising his hands in mock surrender. "But hey, if you succeed in your academic flirting match, or whatever this is, don't say I didn't warn you about his household cleaning habits." "You think I lack ambition?" I shot back, voice rising, the embers of jealousy simmering close to the surface. "How I present myself has much more weight than just laundry." The laughter that pierced the tension shocked even me. Lawrence scrunched up his face in mock contemplation. "You should try to humor him while you can, Zara. Otherwise, you'll be drowning in his socks." I grinned despite the bubbling intensity of the moment, and Julian shook his head, a hint of amusement flashing across his features. Not if I can help it. Reassured by the lightness creeping back into the room, I steeled myself for the last act of this absurd play. Okay then, I'll challenge you, I declared, a spark igniting in my very core. I want royalties on your next paper, if it has anything of my research in it, that is. Bold. Lawrence raised an eyebrow, but his grin was infectious. You've got some fight in you after all, Zara. And if I lose, I'll handle your laundry personally. Julian laughed, the warmth enveloping me as he pulled me closer, his arm wrapping around my waist. That's an outcome I can get behind. Let's see you play nicely now. With every bit of provocation, with every ounce of tension, Julian's gaze met mine, and the looming urgency felt ready to ignite. I didn't just want to fight for what I believed in. I felt something deeper awakening, a quiet knowledge of the powerful connection I held with him amidst the swirling storm. And just as I acknowledged it, everything snapped into focus. There was a longing that stirred in me, an ache ignited beneath the skin, something painfully personal. But Lawrence, seemingly never content with a second's peace, leaned forward, baring his wit's teeth yet again. You know, Zara, if I can take a moment to indulge Julian's full attention, that engine he's of capable mind will only take you so far. In an instant, the room lit, a fire igniting inside me that I wasn't prepared for. If you care to elaborate on what you mean. Before I could finish, Julian spun me into him, capturing the intimacy in his embrace, and I registered the heated tension bubbling between us like a live wire. Pretty sure your story could use some polish, Julian cut in, a fierce glimmer in his gaze. Don't circle each other for long, Lawrence. Zara's eyes are set on the north. X-ray clarity crackled in the air as everyone froze, staring back and forth like spectators at a showdown. Let's put your theories to the test, Lawrence said with an appreciative nod. May the best lover win. Julian's laughter filled the space, enveloping me entirely as I slowly grew aware of the challenge, the exhilaration vibrating through me. It wasn't just about competition. I felt something beneath the surface calling us to ignite. The game was afoot. Bring it on. Just don't get lost in the freezing depths of your own ice sculptures, I replied, breathing in deeply, exhilarated. The air was electric, charged with an experience meant to crack open hidden warmth. Behind the shields and banter of rivalry, I could feel the trust that lay between Julian and me, alongside the tempting thrill of newfound ambition for both friendship and desire. And all throughout, as our worlds collided, this time I was never backing down. I dared him to try, drawing closer as I felt the intricacies of his presence steady my own chaotic heart, setting everything back into place. We should, Julian began, his voice catching in the tremor of urgency as he leaned in closer, ready to gather all our fragmented emotions and fold them into something that mattered entirely. Depart from this and find somewhere to breathe, I finished, breathless, drawing him closer. Oh, how wondrously entangled this audacious tapestry was becoming. And as I delivered the challenge, an electric storm on the canvas of the unknown, I slipped into Julian's embrace. Whatever warmth awaited us amidst the chaos was only just beginning to unfurl. Chapter 34. Reflections and Revelations. The Antarctic winds howled like ancient spirits, a haunting melody threading through the ship. Each gust rattled the sturdy hull, and I shivered, not from the cold, but from the restless energy coursing through me. I'd spent nights lost in thought, reflecting on my ambitious pursuit of anthropology, on the delicate balance of power and vulnerability, and on the enigmatic man who had ignited a fire within me. Julian Black. His name still sent tingles of both desire and confusion through my veins. As I leaned against the ship's railing, the frosty sea air prickling my skin, I anticipated another day filled with uncertainty. The icebergs floated like unspoken secrets, and I felt trapped in their haunting beauty. The morning sun shimmered, transforming the bleak whiteness into something almost ethereal, a facade that hidden complexities lay just beneath the surface. Beautiful, isn't it? Julian's voice sliced through my musings, smooth as silk, yet laced with the weight of unsaid words. He approached me, his silhouette a compelling mixture of strength and elegance, his tailored jacket flaring slightly against the wind, casting a long shadow over the icy deck. I lifted my gaze to meet his, and just like the glacial landscape surrounding us, there was an unfathomable depth in his dark eyes. Absolutely, I replied with a hint of detachment, every syllable carefully measured to avoid the dangerous intimacy that had grown between us. Julian held my stare, his expression shifting from playful to serious. It has a certain power, don't you think? The way it can seem fierce and calm all at once. I thought we were talking about the icebergs, I shot back, hoping to deflect, easing my heart's racing pulse, but my words slid away under the weight of his gaze. Perhaps we're talking about both, he said, chuckling softly, that laugh both a balm and an invitation. What do you do with power, Zara? Do you embrace it, or do you let it slip through your fingers? The question sank into the hush around us. I turned, instinctively pushing against the railing as if its coldness could ground me. And you? Is that why you've put so much pressure on my colleagues? Stalking their research, their successes, while you waited for my arrival? His smile faded, replaced by a flicker of something close to vulnerability. I persuaded myself I was protecting something bigger, my family. Bigger than individual lives? My voice rose. You think manipulation is justified when it's for a greater good? It's not about justification, he snapped, the conviction in his words bold, yet tinged with the slightest vulnerability. It's about necessity. Before I could retort, laughter erupted from behind us. It was Nazrin, my dear friend, her vibrant hair bright as the summer sun. Oh, to hear you two argue could warm the whole ship, she exclaimed, draping an arm around Julian's shoulder with a grin. Zara's probably burning up your brain with her ethical, what do you call it? Ethno-thingy? I couldn't help but chuckle. Ethnography, I corrected, though the amusement did little to dissipate the charged air between me and Julian. Whatever it is, Nazrin continued, I say we ditch the drama for a little fun. And for heaven's sake, leave the ship every once in a while. Join me and Kofi for some ice skating. You'll need to chill out, Zara. Really? I quirked an eyebrow. Ice skating? Who wants to slip fall while bickering? Kofi appeared just then, a large man with warm laughter that could melt even the frostiest hearts. We'll all just hold hands, and no one will fall, he declared, and my smile turned genuine. Fine, I'll give in, I laughed, waving my hands dramatically. But I refuse to lose to your theatrics, especially if the fall means I'll end up with a face full of snow. I turned to Julian. You in, or are you too busy playing puppet master? His eyes twinkled, mischief beneath the surface. Ice skating does sound tempting. My schedule has some flexibility. Great, Nazrin responded, nudging Kofi, who was already looking at Julian as though casting bets on who would trip first. Zara has to loosen up. It's dangerous bringing all that intensity to the ice. Careful with the ice, Julian. Let's see if you're as graceful on it as you are with your persuasive charms, I teased, giving him a sidelong glance. His smile deepened, laced with something more intimate. How charming it is when you turn the tables. Let's go and find out. As we prepared to leave, the atmosphere inside the ship shifted. The walls felt like they were closing in, heavy with unspoken moments. I could feel the weight of Julian's presence, seeping in again, amplifying my overactive thoughts. But the promise of laughter and the crisp open air outside pulled me back from the brink, a true escape from my swirling mind. The icy air was punctuated with our laughter as we skated alongside each other, gliding across a frozen sea, each twist and turn met with playful shouts. Our synchronization became a dance, nostalgic echoes of my childhood. A time before ambition and heartache wrapped around my heart like a vice. Look at me, I'm practically flying, Kofi announced, extending his arms wide, scarcely outward from his core, and promptly lost balance. crashing onto the ice like a defeated giant. "Oh, someone get the magician! We need to make Kofi disappear," I shouted, giggling at the sight of him flailing. "Hey," Kofi protested, mockingly offended as he sat up. "At least I'm falling with grace." "It's my turn," Julian insisted, suddenly dashing forward as if propelled by a gust of wind. He carved across the ice with confident strides, the kind of effortless charm that radiated from him in every aspect of his life. And then, like a spellbinding act of grace, he spun and fell, taking Nazrin down with him, their laughter blending into the crisp air, infectious and buoyant. "Okay, I call dibs on the next round on the ice with Zara," Julian declared, picking himself up. I found myself giggling, my heart swelling at the sight of him, proud, indignant in mockery, the quintessential playfulness I had never imagined he'd possess. As our group continued to revel in the playful chaos, I caught glimpses of our reflections in the icy surface, a mosaic of friendship, unfiltered laughter, and buried emotions. We were real and flawed, and I unexpectedly alive. After much competition and laughter, we gathered at the edge for a round of warm cider. The softness of conversation mingled with the crackle of drinks in hands and the distant sound of ice cracking, the living essence of this extraordinary place. A heart-stopped moment, chilling beneath the Antarctic sun. "Who knew we could unlock so much joy from a frozen slab?" Nazrin mused, taking another sip. "Zara, darling, you could benefit from a little ice in your life. The literal and metaphorical kind, perhaps." I shrugged, but laughter bubbled up unbidden, as if ice could quell the heat between me and Julian. "About that." Julian leaned over, leaning into my personal space, his voice dropping, formidable yet warm, sensing the sudden shift of tension. "This expedition, every moment with you, is shifting everything." True, our bond had grown into something complex and intoxicating. What we had was beckoning, wild and disallowed, and neither of us could deny there were elements of danger stirring between us, the magnetic pull of desires entwined with indefinable risk. "Are we discussing the power of love now?" I teased, deliberately keeping the mood light. Yet the air shifted, charged with an energy that brushed against unspoken feelings. "I'm talking about the raw attraction that binds us," he responded, undeterred. "And I'm curious how long before we address it rather than dance around it." The others drifted quietly, sensing an instinctive pull in the air, waiting, observing, as if we were both the main feature of an exquisite drama. "Then shall we discuss it? Because I've yet to find the right words." I leaned closer, compelled by the heat radiating off him. He chuckled, eyes glinting with mischief. "I think the right words evade us. Perhaps our actions might do a more competent job." With two magnetic forces suddenly colliding, I was leaning into him, not just in proximity, but in genuine need to bridge the distance I had guarded for so long. Our lips pressed together at first tenderly, exploring the depth of connection that seemed too profound for mere words. The world around us faded until we became all that existed, our surroundings reduced to echoes of laughter lost in the frosty backdrop. His hands moved toward my waist, tugging me closer until my body seamlessly nestled against him. The warmth radiating off him amidst the cold was intoxicating, electricity sparking as he deepened the kiss, hungry with untamed passion. It felt chaotic and right all at once, a quickening of heartbeats, warm and chaotic on the ice. "God, you taste like ambition," he murmured against my mouth, his breath hot as he ventured deeper, craving more. A meticulous exploration of boundaries, daring yet loving, tender yet fierce. I pulled away, breathless, the space between us empty yet electric. And what if I'm terrified to cross the boundary? The vulnerability in my voice didn't slip by him. The knowing gaze shared union and ultimately trust. A silent promise threading between determined souls. "Then let's conquer that fear together," he responded gently, cupping my cheek, his presence radiating strength. Maybe amidst the longing, the complexities, and the reckless dance on ice, I had found my power, not just in the pursuit of knowledge or validation, but in the willingness to embrace love, undeniable and relentless. Together with Julian, skating through both the laughter and the vulnerability, there lay my revolution. Together, I echoed, feeling the weight of that word, a commitment, but not just to each other, but to the world waiting beyond our icy cocoon, both frightening and intoxicating. Now let's step back on the ice. That's where the real adventure begins, he said, pulling me back into the joyous chaos. And just like that, we became entwined in both laughter and the precious moments of chance, ready to embrace the wildness of what was to come. Adventure stirring in the air, daring us into the glacial unknown. Chapter 35. Emotional tug-of-war. White cascades of snow whipped against the glass of our cabin, a relentless shiver that mimicked the anticipation stirring in my chest. The polar night hung heavy outside. Shadows loomed long, stretching across every corner of the room, and the frigid air crept through the tiny gaps in the window frames. But inside, the atmosphere crackled, hot and suffocating. Julian stood just a few feet away, an imposing presence lined with tension and something darker. I felt the pull of his energy like gravity. "Zara, you can't seriously believe that sabotaging my work is the solution," I snapped, accusations dripping from every word. My voice echoed against the polished wood, a reminder of how small the cabin felt in this moment. He crossed his arms, his eyes narrowing into slits of hidden intentions. "And you can't seriously think that calling me out in front of the entire team will make everything magically better? Do you even understand how much is at stake?" His voice, while calm, was laced with an undercurrent of anger that set my heart racing. "Always the big man with the answers, aren't you?" I shot back, a sharp tongue masking my own fears. "Why can't you just admit that you're playing a dangerous game here? This isn't just about the research." I could see him wrestling with his next words, but the silence stretched between us, filled with the taste of unspoken fears and hidden ambitions. My stomach twisted as I took a step back, trying to regain a sense of agency in this escalating confrontation. "Dangerous?" he echoed, his voice surprisingly soft. "What's dangerous is ignoring the consequence of your choices, Zara. You think it's all so black and white." He stepped closer, his presence radiating heat that belied the icy world outside. "Julian," I breathed, feeling the warmth of his intensity even through the tension. "It's about integrity. There are ethical lines we cannot—" "Ethics?" he interrupted, disbelief coloring his tone. "When did you become the moral compass of this expedition? You're blinded by your ambition. You don't see the bigger picture." "Stop trying to manipulate me," I yelled, my frustration boiling over. "You can't use your charm to erase the truth of what you've done. You've hurt people to lift yourself up. All this for a cure that might not even exist." The words suffocated me as they tumbled out, unfiltered. Julian's face darkened. "And how long are you willing to stand in the way of progress? You view me as the villain, but I'm the one who believes in the possibility of saving lives, including my family's." "There it is, your family again," I shot back, fists clenched. "Does it never occur to you that your ambition is costing you your humanity?" He stepped even closer, his voice low and enticing, every word a tantalizing challenge. "And what about you? You're so focused on your research that you ignore how you affect those around you. You have this wall, Zara, and I've spent months chipping away at it. But now it feels like you're just throwing up brick after brick." My heart raced, not because of his words, but because of the way he looked at me, a mixture of raw vulnerability and fire. I hated the truth in his statement, and I hated that it stung so deeply. "I'm not the only one building walls," I whispered, the fight draining from me. A moment passed, thick yet delicate, filled with the scent of cedar and a smattering of something sweet from the melting snow. Outside, the wind howled like a restless spirit, but in this cabin, we held our breath, tethered in a moment of understanding and longing. Julian reached out, his fingers brushing against my arm, warm and inviting. "You think I'm just a charming facade, don't you? Beneath this, there's more, Zara. I want you to see it. I swallowed hard. Sometimes I want to, but you're afraid of what you might find? He leaned in closer, his breath mingling with mine, igniting every nerve in my body. You don't have to be. Before I could respond, Rhea burst through the door, her laughter spilling into the room like sunlight through dark clouds. Look at you two, all drama and tension. It's practically a soap opera, she teased, oblivious to the charging atmosphere. Both Julian and I shot her glare as she hopped onto the small couch, her playful demeanor cutting through the intensity like a knife. Deflecting with humor, Rhea, I said, unable to suppress a slight grin. How novel. What? I'm just saying, at this rate, you'll both have a full trilogy of emotional turmoil by the time we finish this expedition. She flashed a grin that seemed to shine like the icebergs outside. Thanks for the input, Rhea, but we're not quite there yet, Julian muttered, his brow furrowing slightly as he shook off the sudden weight of distraction. Oh, please, I'm a perfect sidekick in this drama, Rhea said, waving her hands theatrically. But let's pivot. I brought hot chocolate and snacks. What better way to resolve conflict than over marshmallows? I couldn't help but laugh a little, my tension loosening slightly. That sounds like a plan. I turned back to Julian, my heart still heavy, knowing a deeper conversation awaited us. This isn't over, you know. Wouldn't dream of it, Zara, Julian replied, the intensity returning, but Rhea's presence made it lighter, a breath of fresh air in an otherwise icy exchange. Rhea began pouring the hot chocolate into oversized mugs, steam mingling with the crispness of the air. So, what's the deal? Championing a good old-fashioned fight, or are we sticking to civil discussions? She glanced between us, an eyebrow raised playfully. Depends on how much sugar you've added to that hot chocolate, Julian quipped, his tone teasing as he moved toward the couch, positioning himself next to Rhea. I furrowed my brow. Sweetening the enemies, are we? I said, grabbing a mug and taking a hearty sip, the warmth wrapping around my throat like a comforting embrace. The enemies? Rhea laughed. Trust me, the tension in this room is like Shakespearean levels of angst. Someone just needs to break into sonnets and we'll be set. Or a duel at dawn, Julian added, leaning back as he sipped his drink, his demeanor lightening, but eyes still holding mine, unyielding and charged. Or some wildly passionate make-up scene, I shot back, doing my best to send a sassy glint his way. He grinned. Now that I can support. Rhea chortled. Okay, I'm seriously loving this. You two are like fire and ice. It's a chaotic but beautiful mess. Just wait until things heat up, Julian challenged, the casual facade crumbling as his trademark intensity began to surface again, pooling in the space between us like molten lava. Well, when it does, take it to the other room, Rhea winked, sipping her chocolate with a smirk. I don't need to be a witness to your volcanic eruption. Maybe I'll take my chances with the eruption, I responded, my heart pounding anew. But underneath the light-hearted banter, I felt the weight of the night press down once more. The unresolved tensions were barely masked by laughter. Rhea took another sip and changed the topic, starting on her plans for the next leg of the expedition, while I sat lost in thought, gazes flicking intermittently between her and Julian. A new layer unfolded, weaving through the lightheartedness and carving deeper lines between us. Each shared smile felt like a standoff, waiting for one of us to break. And no matter how much we laughed, the truth loomed over us, waiting for its moment to surface. As the conversation continued, I found my thoughts drifting back to Julian's words. Life, he said, rested on progress, on the fierce drive to save those we loved. But at what cost? My heart danced between ambition and something softer, more earthbound. Outside, the wind howled again, curling like a lover's breath against the cabin walls. I watched Julian, his brow slightly furrowed, as if he too felt the pull of the night outside. Somewhere beyond that icy barrier, we were tangled in a storm of our making. Threads of ambition and passion weaving together against forces far greater than ourselves. Hey, Zara, he said suddenly, pulling me back as Rhea filled the silence with anecdotes about our research team. you'll want to figure out your next steps, especially if you're going to face off against me." I laughed lightly, but my heart raced at the challenge in his stance. "Oh, I have a few ideas. It's just that your ways tend to complicate things." "What can I say? That's how I like it." His words lingered, the playful banter always sidling with something much deeper. A promise of unresolved intricacies waiting in the wings. "Let's do it then," I said, my voice steadier and more decisive now. "You might just find I'm not as easy to deter as you think." The tension spiraled into something promising, and we both knew it was an invitation wrapped in challenge. Unearthing a whirlwind brewing between half-empty mugs of hot chocolate and laughter that echoed against the icy walls, beckoning us into the chaotic beauty of what was to come. Yet within the room laden with warmth, I realized that this tug of war wasn't simply with him. It was with everything. I was teetering on the edge. Perhaps there was more to this expedition, this journey, than either of us had been prepared to face. And the heart of it all needed more than just the naked ambition of dreams. All eyes were now on our wild, fragmented hearts, bridged by hope, love, and an unyielding pull toward what lay ahead, glittering like the stars outside. "Let's not keep the universe waiting," I said, my pulse dancing as our eyes locked. The frigid world outside seeming almost idyllic compared to the ice running through the tension we had created. And inside, I felt like an unbranded flame in the night, ready for whatever storm might come. "Are you ready for the next chapter, Zara?" Julian whispered, a teasing smile flickering in the dim light. "Always," I responded, breathless, and the unspoken promise flared between us, igniting a new journey that would dare to confront all chaos, one heartbeat at a time. Chapter 36. Storming Passion. The walls of the expedition ship groaned like a beast awakening from slumber as the wind whipped against the hull, rattling the polished metal and glass. I stood near the broad windows of the lounge, my breath misting the cold glass as flakes of ice spun and pirouetted in the tempest outside, each one a hex of fate spiraling on the winds of a storm. The chaos of the weather mirrored the whirlwind inside me, emotions swirling, colliding, and feeling as if they might tear me apart. "Zara!" Julian's voice cut through the din, yet its urgency was wrapped in a softness that pulled at the frayed edges of my composure. I turned to find him standing at the archway, tension radiating off him like heat from a flame. His expensively tailored jacket clung to his powerful frame, the subtle swell of muscle evident even in the dim light. But it was his eyes, dark pools reflecting something both mesmerizing and dangerous, that captivated me. "What do you want?" I snapped, my heart racing against the prospect of an encounter. We hadn't exactly reconciled after the argument prior to the storm. Our words had hung like unfinished sentences, anguish punctuating each thought. The silence afterwards felt like a chasm, one I desperately wanted to bridge, yet fear weighed down my courage. "Come here," he commanded, his voice low and smooth, blending with the storm's howling wind. My body betrayed my mind, steeling me against his call, yet I found my feet moving toward him, drawn like a moth to a flame. "You know I'm angry at you," I said, attempting to channel that fury into my words while fighting the magnetic pull of his presence. "Oh, I'm counting on it," he replied, an infuriating smirk creeping across his lips that ignited a furious blush across my cheeks. "Your anger is a beautiful sight, Zara. Makes me feel alive." "Alive? Is that what you think this is? A game?" I shot back, astonished by the intensity of my feelings. The laughter in his gaze felt like a challenge, but the way his body tensed belied a readiness to defend against an emotional upheaval. The contradiction only stoked the fire within me. Before I could respond, the ship lurched, throwing us both against the wall. I steadied myself and shot him an incredulous look. But instead of retreating, he stepped closer, our bodies almost flush. The storm roared around us, a symphony of chaos for our imminent orchestration. "Game or not, this is a storm we both can't escape," he murmured, his breath ghosting over my ear in a way that sent sparks dancing along my skin. "I'll take my chances, thank you very much," I retorted, but my voice trembled, betraying the tumult of emotions crashing within. Jealousy, passion, pain, they blended into a vibrant palette of confusion and longing. "It's not just the storm you should fear." His gaze bore into me, a stark and honest declaration that sent a thrill down my spine. "Now's not the time for your secrets, Julian," I warned, the heat pooling in my belly, clashing with the chill of our surroundings. "You've had your fun sabotaging my competitors, but I'm not here for games. Zara, stop." He cut me off firmly, his fingers brushing against my wrist. The contact felt electric, sending tremors through my entire being, and I couldn't tell if that spark was the result of anger or desire. "You think this is about getting ahead? We're trapped here together, and I haven't stopped thinking about you since the moment I saw you on this ship." Trapped indeed. I pulled back, trying to regain an ounce of composure, but a shiver ran through me as my defenses began to crumble like ice upon the waves. The truth was undeniable. I was overwhelmed by Julian, and my heart betrayed my mind. "Do you feel that?" he said, tilting his head towards the raging storm, as if surrendering to the chaos. "This is the universe pushing us together. Can't you see that?" I hesitated before replying. "Is that what I am to you? A force of nature?" The irony wasn't lost on me. Ever since we'd met, he had indeed felt like a tempest, strong and relentless. "More like a revelation," he said solemnly, and the intensity of his gaze wrapped around me, pulling me further into his orbit. "A reminder of life in its purest form." The doubt I had harbored flickered like a candle threatened by the wind, and it took every ounce of self-control not to lean in and lose myself in him. "You couldn't possibly comprehend what that means for me," I breathed, defiance lacing my words even as I edged closer. "Don't need to comprehend, just need to act," he replied, his voice low and resonant. "What does it take to make you trust me?" "You've built a fortress around your heart, Julian," I said, my voice wavering slightly. "And yet you expect me to lay mine bare. You think the storm will drown us if we let it in?" A sudden crack of thunder reverberated through the ship, as if punctuating our conversation, a fierce reminder that the outside world was just as tumultuous as our flailing emotions. Julian's fingers tightened around my wrist, a gentle yet unwavering invitation to let the storm in. Let it drown us then," he whispered. "Because I want it all, Zara. The good, the bad, and the stormy." Our breaths mingled in the charged atmosphere, heartbeat echoing the cadence of the storm. The air felt thick with unspoken desires, the anticipation palpable. Before I could think, I surged forward, pushing my lips onto his, and he responded as if he had been awaiting the invitation for an eternity. The kiss ignited, a smoldering blaze seeking to consume everything, every argument, every ounce of misunderstanding. His lips moved over mine in a demanding tenderness, and I could feel the storm rage outside, mirrored in our heat. Waves of passion crashed, and what started as a tentative entanglement turned into a dance of desperation. "Zara," he murmured against my mouth, his tongue brushing over the swell of my lips, making me gasp. "Do you realize it's going to be hell to get us out of this?" I replied playfully, breathless but ready. "Hell's going to feel like heaven with you," he said, his voice playful yet sincere. The confidence in him only further inflamed my desire. With that proclamation, he spun me around and pressed my back against the wall. The chill of the metal a sharp contrast to the heat building between us. I gasped, more from the thrill of his boldness than the cold. "Julian, wait," I began, but my protest was soon swallowed by his mouth, and any rational thought fled. "Don't want to wait," he murmured, sliding his hands under my shirt. The soft fabric brushed against my skin, each fingertip igniting a fire I hadn't known was there. Longing blooming like wildflowers after a long winter. "But trust me. Just trust me," he urged, voice an intimate whisper, each word riding the waves of passion crashing around us. At that moment, a shuddering clap of thunder reverberated through the ship, almost drowning out my impulse to hesitate. I closed my eyes and surrendered to the storm within, allowing desire to wash over me, cleansing the remnants of doubts and fears. Fine, I breathed, pulling him closer, relishing the warmth radiating from him. His smile ignited something feral within me, a rebirth achieved in one fervent kiss. You won't regret it, he promised, kissing a trail down my neck, his breath sending waves of delight cascading through me, each caress a promise collapsing the walls of solitude that I had built so carefully. Just then, the ship swayed violently, bringing me back to the present. This tempest might shred us apart entirely. We might die, I gasped against the onslaught of pleasure. He chuckled, arms secure around me. If we do, I want to go down with you. Julian, I warned, but my tone lacked any semblance of authority. He captured my lips again, deepening the kiss, and I melted against him, my resistance treating me like a whispering specter in the storm. Our bodies moved together with an urgency that matched the furious winds outside, entrapped by the raging tempest, two hearts intertwining in synchrony. I felt his warmth radiating through my clothing, and in each gasp and sigh, I melted deeper into him. His hands grasped my waist firmly, firm yet reverent, lifting me slightly as if to claim my very essence. I want you, he rasped, eyes dark with need, the depth of his desire piercing through my own fear. Then take me, I urged, throwing caution to the icy winds outside. With a deft twist, he propelled me back toward the plush couch nestled in the corner, the fabric warmed by the infusion of passion, laughter, and anxious anticipation. As we sank into the cushions, the storm seemed to fade, rendering our chaos utterly inconsequential. Zara, he breathed again, locking his gaze with mine, those soulful eyes anchoring me in the chaos. No one else, only you. So we're ripping these walls down? I teased, my heart thundering. For you, I would tear down mountains, he replied with fervor, and in that moment I felt it, see it, the perfect disaster we were destined to create amid a blizzard. Then he kissed me again, and we plunged deeper into the storm, rattling the ship, our worlds colliding, shattered pieces merging to craft a flame in the midst of a blizzard. The promise of new beginnings anchored in an emotional maelstrom. As the wind howled like the wailing spirits of the deep, we became a part of it. Lost yet found, torn and yet whole, we rose like the storm around us, caught in the tempest of our passion, leaving only the promise of rebirth in our wake. In that place, amid the storm, I found my voice echoing late into the night, just beneath the sound of crashing waves. I choose this. I had thought that Antarctica could offer a reprieve from the world's noise, an escape into the heart of icy wonders. But here, amid the treasure trove of histories and artifacts, my heart was caught in a tempest far fiercer than the one outside. It was Julian, his presence a magnetic storm of charm, laced with unfathomable depths. Zara, he said, breaking the silence, his voice threaded with something more than mere curiosity. I turned to face him, finding the steep chasm of our unspoken desires stretching between us like the frigid expanse beyond the safety of the ship. What is it? He leaned against the table, fingers grazing the surface of an old map, like a lover tracing the lines of a beloved's body. What if we didn't let the storm dictate our evening? I chuckled, half-hearted yet laced with intrigue. You suggest playing cards while we might be swept away by nature's fury? How romantic. The sarcasm dripped off my tongue, yet beneath it lay the embers of curiosity. Should I dare to play his game? Julian's gaze held mine, fierce and unyielding. No, he said, his smile teasing. I mean we should take the risk, whatever that may be. These walls, he gestured grandly, are mirages of comfort. Out there, chaos reigns. In here, we could embrace that chaos. I felt a laugh escape me, light and buoyant, like he had just whispered a conspiracy. That's your plan? Embrace the storm? Why not? He moved closer, and the warmth of his body radiated, chasing away the mockery of the cold. This expedition is about more than mere discovery. Trust is the anchor that steadies us in turbulent waters. Perhaps I should show you. His words washed over me, stirring both excitement and trepidation. Trust? Surely you jest. You've been a secret keeper since we met. What lies have you stowed away? He straightened, the playful guise slipping momentarily, revealing a flicker of vulnerability. Once upon a time, I believed I was unshakable, he murmured, that walls were necessary to protect what I held dear. But perhaps trust is a far greater strength. Is that what you want from me? I asked, intrigued yet cautious. To be your fortress? No, he replied, his intensity sharpening. I want us both to be the architects of a sanctuary, woven from our own truths. The storm raged outside, gnashing at the ship's hull, as if poised to join our unraveling tension. I searched his face, searching for clarity in the shadows swirling behind his eyes. What kind of sanctuary could we build together? Just then, the door swung open, interrupting the moment. Our friends, Leo and Tasha, barged in, shaking off the chill that clung to them. Something about their chaotic entrance broke the heavy spell surrounding Julian and me. Are we interrupting? Leo quipped, hands raised in mock surrender. I knew it, Tasha added, eyeing us with a glimmer of mischief. The two of you look like you're about to elope out there. Elope? I nearly laughed. We can't even step outside without risking hypothermia. Julian drew back, the corner of his mouth twitching as he played along. Ah, yes. We must first brave the ice. Then we can talk about uniting in scandal. Leo rolled his eyes theatrically. I'm sure there's enough scandal with the way you've been eyeing each other since we boarded this ship. Tasha laughed, plopping down on a chair and pulling Leo into hers. You two are just a tempest waiting to happen. I felt warmth flood my cheeks, and I shot Julian a knowing glance. Maybe we should just play cards after all. Maybe you should choose a new tactic, Julian said, amusement dancing in his dark gaze. You throw out the card, I play for all or nothing. Careful, Zara, Tasha said, her tone conspiratorial. You may lose your heart, and we can't have that. Right? Leo chimed in, mock somber. Let's keep it to shuffling our fortunes, not our affections. Very clever, Leo. Julian's voice rose, teasing yet firm. But sometimes life requires going all in, even if it's reckless. As Tasha and Leo bantered, I felt a spark ignite between us, the thrill of the unseen, the promise of a hidden depth lurking within our chaotic world. Are you ready? Julian leaned closer, his voice softening in the cacophony. To accept the challenge? I took a breath, the atmosphere thick with daring possibility. Between trusts broken and promises whispered, I could feel the tides changing. All or nothing. Right? I responded, daring him to push further. Exactly. In that instant, as laughter echoed through the room and the wind howled outside, a decision crystallized in my heart. I'd been standing on the edge of a precipice, torn between ambition and something greater. Julian's invitation became more than just a challenge. It was my call to arms against the storms of my heart. But before I could ponder the implication of that revelation, Julian grabbed my hand, pulling me to my feet. Come on, let's make tonight worth remembering. And without another word, he led me from the library, my pulse racing as the weight of uncertainty and promise settled between us like crystalline ice. As we strode into the chaos together, I felt lighter yet tethered, anchored by trust, ready to face whatever awaited us. Just let me know. Chapter 38, Frostbitten Hearts. The wind howled around the ship like a sorrowful waltz, each gust battering the hull with an urgency that mirrored the turmoil inside me. The Antarctic storm had descended suddenly, the swirling gusts obscuring the endless icebergs and the vast white ocean beyond. The heavy snow clung to the glass, swirling in patterns like my thoughts. I gripped the railing, feeling the cold so seductively encircle me as I peered into the dimly lit lounge. Zara, you'll freeze out here. Julian's voice cut through the chaos, filled with a warmth that contrasted sharply with the harsh environment outside. He stepped out, his figure tall and formidable against the white backdrop, his slick hair tousled by the wind. The flickering lights inside the ship cast delicate shadows across his strong features, illuminating the intensity of his deep-set eyes, eyes that flickered with the kind of fire that could melt glaciers. "I'm fine," I insisted, my breath forming delicate clouds in the freezing air. The pierce of the cold was a welcome distraction from the heat I felt emanating from our impending conversation. "It's just nice to be out here." "Nice? It's like being trapped in a snow globe of despair," he shot back, a smirk playing at the corners of his mouth. "Besides, I need you breathing, especially given the upheaval in the lounge." My pulse quickened, swirling with the chaotic energy around us. No doubt our friends were embroiled in some raucous denunciation of our predicament, laughter punctuated with moments of revelation that I couldn't afford to miss. But here I was, caught in a storm of another kind, tethered by Julian's magnetic pull. I shook my head, breaking his daring gaze. "I can't help but wonder what is about to explode in there. Only the wildest of secrets, and oh, I don't know, maybe a love that is gradually defrosting in the icy wasteland." He stepped closer, his breath almost mingling with mine. The neon light flickered overhead, casting a greenish hue over us as tension crackled through the air. I swallowed hard, my tongue flicking across my lips involuntarily. "You think we're just meant to burn up?" Once again, his intensity caught me off guard, infusing an air of peril into our simmering connection. "I think," he said, leaning slightly closer, "that we're due for more than just a shiver in the storm." The air shifted, thickening as he encroached upon my personal space. My heartbeat drummed a quick tempo, an insistent rhythm that echoed the storm. I could smell him, cedarwood, and a hint of something sweet. It intoxicated me more than I cared to admit, teasing my senses with promise and daring me to venture closer to the edge. "Julian," I started hesitantly, but my voice strangled itself, lost in the seizure of unspoken words. "Yes?" His smile was almost too inviting, a challenge nestled in the corners of his mouth. I could feel our differences brewing underneath, swirling like the storm outside, the dichotomy of my ambition battling my longing. "We can't deny what we—" "Can't deny what?" His laughter was playful, making my stomach flutter like a schoolgirl's. "That we're teetering on the brink of something extraordinary?" The word hung heavily between us, electrifying the space with the weight of its possibilities. "Extraordinary," I echoed, nodding slowly. "But do we really know what we're doing?" "Maybe that's the first step to discovering it." He reached out, brushing a loose strand of hair behind my ear, and a shiver cascaded down my spine. "Zara, Julian," an enthusiastic voice erupted from the lounge, pulling us back from the precipice of confession. It was Malcolm, our no-nonsense ship's engineer, arms flailing dramatically as he burst through the door. "You two look absolutely ridiculous standing out here while we're about to toast to love in a blizzard." "Love?" Julian scoffed, stepping back just enough to regain some sense of propriety, a teasing grin flashing my way. "Is that what we're toasting to?" Malcolm, oblivious to the delicious tension hovering like a curtain, beamed at us both. "Absolutely, and you both have to come join. You look like you could defrost at a campfire, but let's be honest, a wild party is calling." I shot Julian a glare, a mix of panic and exhilaration swimming through me. "You'd better not be the party trick tonight," I muttered under my breath. "Trust me, I'm always the one who keeps things up and interesting." As we ventured back inside, the mulled wine and laughter overwhelmed us, engulfing me in a world rich with warmth and life. The pungent scent of spices danced around me, competing with the stirring tension that lingered in my chest. "Listen," Malcolm casually interrupted a chorus of laughter, raising his glass high. "To the icebreaker, to love, and to Zara and Julian, whose intense gazes would turn any mammoth into a soap opera." Laughter erupted, though it felt almost excessive, Truthful, yet farcical. I shared an incredulous look with Julian, his lips twisted with amusement, and the hot flush creeping up my neck was too conspicuous. I couldn't decide whether to sink deeper into embarrassment or bask in the attention. Well, let's be honest, I called over the noise, joining in on the lighthearted banter. Julian's the one who would turn ice into steam, not me. Silence enveloped us for a split second, punctuated only by Julian's low laughter, coaxing the room back into its rhythm. Steam? Or perhaps something molten, my dear? Watch out, came Sophia's teasing voice from across the room, her gaze playful. You're about to start a fire that'll never be extinguished. To that, I rolled my eyes, a smile creeping across my face as my heart danced brighter. The playful banter spun around me like the enchanting flurries outside. Honestly, Julian murmured, leaning into me as we both reached for the warm apple cider on the table. What do you say we do a little adventure of our own later? Adventure? I raised an eyebrow, letting the implications slide like molten chocolate across my tongue. Hunting for the best secret spot on the ship. Something where we can truly escape this nonsense for a while. There's definitely nowhere safe on this boat with all of us crowding around, I replied, feigning seriousness yet unable to hold back the playful grin. Don't challenge me. His look held a mix of mischief and promise, his tone low enough for only me to hear. I've always enjoyed living on the edge, darling. With the storm raging outside and laughter wrapping around us like a cozy blanket, I felt a tug in my heart, a calling toward whatever sought to bravely unfurl between us. All right, Mr. Dangerous, I replied, my voice bold despite the flutter in my chest. Lead the way. As Julian guided me, we weaved through the thrumming mass of our friends, past concerns and worries, toward the uncharted territory that awaited us. Each step toward the promise of intimacy propelled us both, pulling me away from the chaos of life and into an unforeseen possibility that came alive beneath our fingertips. When we reached the door to the ship's uppermost observation deck, a sudden rush of excitement pulsed through me. I turned back briefly to glance at the warmth of our friends, the promise of safety and abandon, and a world of laughter beyond our two souls. Yet the door swung wide. We were on our own. The cold air struck me again as if it had teeth, but as Julian stepped out behind me and closed the door, an exhilarating warmth sprouted inside. The storm surrounding us roared, but we were trapped in our own bubble, amplified by passion and discovery. What now? I asked, peering into the swirling white void beyond. Julian took my hands, his warm palms enveloped mine like a spell, and I could feel fire igniting where our skin met, electrifying my every nerve. Now we explore the real magic that blooms in the storm, he said, words dipping low like the whisper of a secret. And before I could recalibrate, I found myself pulled into him, wrapped up tightly in the promise of what we both desired. The storm howled, but our desires were a different tempest entirely. He leaned closer, his face inches from mine, an electric hum crackling between us. Let me show you something. And before I could reply, his lips met mine. The kiss ignited with fierce abandon, a surge of molten heat that melted what remained of any barriers. Our breaths mingled, frantic and wild, as the longing of years expressed itself within that singular moment. My heart raced as I tasted him, deeper, bolder, each caress of his mouth stoking the fire within me. A soft moan escaped my lips as he pulled me tighter, grounding myself into the bedrock of his forceful charm and raw intent. Zara, he murmured against my mouth, the sound vibrating through me like a beautifully woven spell. The ache of our urgency swirled around us, and the universe felt strangely small, delineated by the warmth wrapping us in the heart of the storm. Bound by the chaos outside and the palpable electricity within, I surrendered to its ferocity, my body, my thoughts, my desires entwining so deeply that it was impossible to isolate one from the other. And so we explored, tasting, teasing, and devouring each moment like an exquisite forbidden feast. There were no softer tones, no hesitations, It was a raw unveiling of ourselves, undressing our hearts as much as our bodies. I gasped and giggled, swept away by laughter and delirious heat, losing track of the roaring winds and the flurry of snowflakes. "You really are trouble," I whispered, laughter bubbling in the back of my throat as I pulled back momentarily, breathless but exhilarated. "Just a kind of trouble you can't afford to resist," he smirked, pulling me back against him, our unity forging a fire that lived outside the storm. "Now open your heart to all the wonderful things I have planned for us." And with a promise of warmth against the frigid backdrop of the storm, we lost ourselves anew in the wild, unpredictable dance of our desires, where every kiss drove deeper into the heart of our frosted destinies. Chapter 39. Rising Tensions. "Why do you insist on testing the limits of my patience, Julian?" I shot back, my voice barely breaking through the cacophony of the cramped galley where the ship's crew was gathered, the lingering scent of salt and oil competing with the growing tension curling in the air. Julian stood against the edge of the stainless steel counter, arms crossed, an amused grin creasing his lips. "And why do you refuse to simply enjoy the ride, Zara?" His eyes glinted in the dim fluorescent light, mischievous and infuriating in equal measure. I leaned closer, the warmth of his body almost igniting the chill in the air.
He could be insufferable.
"Because this isn't a vacation. Supplies are running low. We can't afford to pretend we're still on a luxury expanse of ice." Julian made a dismissive wave of his hand, but the way his brow furrowed gave away his concern. "You worry too much, love. A little creativity never hurt anyone." "Creativity won't get us through another week if we run out of food," I countered, my voice rising over the distant murmurs of crew members debating the most efficient ways to ration our dwindling resources. I felt the weight of their anxieties and the fragility of our situation pressing down on my chest. Mira, a fiery logistics officer with dark curls, piped in from the back. "Zara's right. We can't just wing it. We're running on fumes here." Though her expression was fierce, I could see the flicker of fear behind her resolve. "Yeah, and I'm not trying to plummet into an existential crisis on this floating iceberg," Noah, the ship's rugged deckhand, quipped, tossing back a long mane of hair. His chuckle reverberated with the clinking of metal utensils as someone dropped a knife. "Save the jokes for the next skit night," Julian replied, but a glint of humor lurked in his voice, the corners of his mouth drawing up even when the atmosphere felt so starkly serious. Mira glanced around the room, her tone shifting to something more strategic. "The next storm is coming. We'll need everyone's support to weather it." She turned, locking eyes with Julian and me in rapid succession. "This isn't just about surviving the cold, it's about surviving each other." A ripple of laughter filtered through our small group, easing some of the tension, but not mine. My throat felt tight, and I looked at Julian sideways, catching him with a contemplative gaze. He was brilliant, infuriatingly charismatic, and now my greatest ally in a battle I hadn't fully signed up for. But a battle it was, the shifting dynamics of our very existence, against the backdrop of ice and uncertainty, weighed heavily on me. "Let's go over the contingency plans," Julian said, squaring his shoulders with fierce resolve. "We need to act fast. If we can't find a sustainable source of food, we will have to—" His voice trailed off, and an uneasy silence settled over us, like the falling snow outside. "Resort to cannibalism?" Noah interjected, his eyes sparkling with dramatics, cutting into the somber mood. "I hear Chef Elton has been eyeing those delicious calves of yours, Zara." He gestured toward my legs, and laughter erupted once again, breaking the heaviness, if only for a moment. "Please, if we're doing any eating, I'll gladly take a slice of you instead."